Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure that I welcome you all to this pre-summit event with the theme Domestic Tourism, a powerful tool for rural revitalization and economic growth in Nigeria. Today marks an important step towards unlocking the immense potential that lies within our local tourism industry. As we all know, this is one of our pre-summit events as we get towards the 30th Nigerian Economic Summit, which with the theme Collaborative Action for Growth, Competitiveness and Stability, which is scheduled to hold on October 14 to 16, 2024 at Transcorp Hilton, Abuja, Nigeria. The link to register will be dropped in the chat box, so we can all take advantage of this during the course of this event. So a brief housekeeping rules. We're all encouraged to drop our comments or questions in the Q&A feature on your Zoom tab, and rest assured that they'll be attended to. So at this point, I would like to welcome our Mr. Udeme Fort, who is a board member at the NESG, for his welcome address. Mr. Udeme Fort, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Zeno. I believe you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for logging on. This is my welcome address to this special event, which is the pre-summit event by the NESG on domestic tourism, a powerful tool for rural revitalization and economic growth in Nigeria, to the 29th of August, 2024. Heads of ministries, departments and agencies, captains of industries, heads of associations, donor communities, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to welcome our distinguished and erudite signatories and our highly esteemed participants to this pre-summit event titled Domestic Tourism, a powerful tool for rural revitalization and economic growth in Nigeria. Hosted by the Tourism and Hospitality Industries Thematic Group of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group THECCSPC Commission. Let me start by especially acknowledging and thanking the Honorable Minister for Tourism, Mrs. Lola Adejohn, for the passion and commitment she has displayed in driving the tourism agenda since she assumed office. The NEL is always appreciative of willing partners in our public-private sector relationship. This event, as already mentioned, is part of the pre-summit series for the 30th Nigerian Economic Summit, NESG, organized by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning. It aims to engage stakeholders through various virtual conversations and sessions leading up to the main summit, which will take place from October 14th to 16th, 2024. If you are not registered yet, please visit the official NESG website now. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, several factors have led Nigerians to prefer domestic travel over international options. Safety and familiarity are key reasons for this shift. Domestic destinations are seen as safer because people are familiar with local health and safety protocols, making tourists feel more confident traveling within their own country during these uncertain times. Second, reduced international mobility due to travel restrictions and global conflicts has made domestic travel more accessible and convenient. Additionally, economic factors play a significant role. The pandemic and political instability have disrupted livelihoods, making domestic travel a more affordable choice. And consequently, people prioritize essential needs by choosing local destinations. Now, this pre-summit event, in line with the theme of our NESG, seeks to explore strategies for fostering inclusive economic growth in our country. Nigeria's economic health could significantly change economic dynamics, trade patterns, investment flows, and political stability across the continent. The path ahead is challenging, but not insurmountable. By the end of today's session, I am confident that our discussions will produce actionable policy recommendations and networking opportunities. Once again, I extend a profound appreciation to every participant for accepting our invitation and look forward to having a productive session. Finally, I urge you again to register for the THECCSPC Nigerian Economics Summit through the NESG website to join other experts and stakeholders in articulating an agenda for collaborative action for growth, stability, and competitiveness. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you for your attention, and welcome once again to the summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odeme, for the welcome address. We genuinely appreciate you, sir. So just like our board member, Mr. Odeme, has said, to register for the THECCSPC Nigerian Economics Summit, you can see the link in the chat box. You can take advantage of it there, and we'll also give you more in-depth knowledge about the THECCSPC Summit. Thank you. So going on, we'd like to welcome our Honorable Minister, Mrs. Lola Adejon, Honorable Minister, Ministry of Tourism, for her keynote address. Good afternoon, Minister Ma.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Loud and clear, Minister.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to see some of you online. I would like to thank you for inviting me to give this keynote speech, and I stand on existing protocols. Good afternoon, fellow tourism advocates. Welcome to the 30th Nigerian Economic Summit Group Pre-Summit. We gather today to discuss a subject close to my heart and essential for Nigeria's future: domestic tourism. Historically, our focus has been inbound tourism, but we have often overlooked the vast potential of local tourism on 100 million people. By focusing on a vibrant domestic tourism industry, we open up significant opportunities for rural communities and our economy. In 2022, travel and tourism contributed 3.65% to Nigeria's GDP and about 17.3 billion to the GDP. In contrast, France, the world's leading tourism destination, sees tourism contributing 7.5% to its GDP. So we have a lot of work to do. This gap highlights the immense growth potential in our tourism sector. Nigeria is blessed with natural, cultural, and historical resources, with about 1,091 tourist sites across 36 states and the FCT, the Federal Capital Territory. Many of these attractions are undergoing revitalization to position Nigeria as a prime destination. For instance, Obudu Mountain Resort in Cross River State is enhancing its infrastructure to boost ecotourism appeal. Ogunike Caves in Anambra is improving visitor facilities and conservation efforts to promote it as a cultural and natural heritage site. Osun Osogbo Sacred Grove is undergoing conservation and infrastructure upgrades to maintain its UNESCO World Heritage status. Kajuru Castle in Kaduna is restoring its historic architecture to attract tourists with interest in history. Yankari Game Reserve in Bauchi is improving and populating its wildlife conservation and tourism services. In addition to these sites, Nigeria boasts about, from our own records, 814 festivals celebrated across 774 local government areas, offering rich cultural experiences. Some highlights include the Durbar Festival in Kano, Katsina, and Zaria, showcasing horsemanship and cultural parades during Eid celebrations. The New Yam Festival across Southeast region Nigeria, celebrating the Yam Festival with feasts and traditional dances. The Shango Festival in Oyo, honoring the Yoruba god of thunder through cultural performances. The Nembe Brass Festival in Bayelsa highlights marine culture, the riverine culture with local boat regattas and traditional sports. Nigeria's vast cuisine also plays a significant role in tourism. Bold flavors of the northern suya, iconic jollof rice of the West, and hearty meals of the South are food offers a unique way for visitors to experience our regions. Despite these rich offerings, many rural areas remain under unexplored, bold and vast untapped potential. Investing in domestic tourism can revitalize these communities, create jobs, spur entrepreneurship, and generate revenue. Every naira spent by a domestic tourist supports local economic, small businesses, and infrastructure. Our tourism sector currently supports 1.9 jobs, or nearly 3% of total employment, but there is plenty room for growth. To fully harness its potential, we have launched two major initiatives. First, the Doctrine According to Tourism, a nationwide campaign in partnership in line with the National Orientation Agency. It equips local communities with tools to enhance tourism for economic growth and cultural preservation. Workshop, awareness programs, and consultations will engage indigenous groups, youth, women, and every Nigerian, ensuring that the Nigerians have a stake in our tourism industry. Second, the Ecogenesis Incubator Series, a sustainable tourism entrepreneurship program, has already launched in FCT, Benue, Ekiti, and Lagos. The project provides boot camps for young entrepreneurs to refine their tourism ideas, promoting innovation and sustainable growth. Domestic tourism also helps preserve our culture and environment. By exploring Nigeria and attending local festivals, citizens deepen their connection to their heritage and strengthen their commitment to protecting our natural resources. Recognizing domestic tourism as a strategic priority is key to Nigeria's economic transformation and diversification. Fully leveraging our 1,091 tourist sites and about 814 festivals will boost tourism's contribution to GDP and bring us closer to the top global tourism destination. I envision a Nigeria where every state is a thriving tourism destination. Rural communities are empowered and economic benefits are shared equitably. In fact, there's a joke I normally crack. We have everything in Nigeria but snow. It's only snow that we don't have. And if you know of where there's snow, let me know so that I'll add it to the list. However, this requires collaboration. Government, private sector, civil society, and citizens must work together to build infrastructure connectivity and create an environment that promotes domestic travel. Investing in skills, development, hospitality, education proudly champions our homeland's treasures. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you for taking our time to join us and deliver your keynote address. Thank you for also laying ground knowledge on some of our cultural heritage, diverse landscapes, and vibrant communities, all of which offer unique experiences waiting to be explored. Thank you very much, Ma. So going on, I would like to welcome Ms. Ngozi Ngoka, who is the thematic leader with tourism and hospitality industries thematic group at the NESG, to deliver her presentation. Good afternoon, Mrs. Ngozi.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Zeno. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us today. We're here to explore a topic of immense significance to Nigeria's future, which is domestic tourism, a powerful tool for rural revitalization and economic growth. As we delve into this presentation, we'll uncover how promoting domestic tourism can not only boost our economy, but also breathe new life into our rural communities. By leveraging our rich cultural heritage, natural beauty, our fashion, our lifestyle, and the innovative spirit of Nigerians, we can actually create sustainable and inclusive growth that benefits all Nigerians. So let's embark on this journey together to understand the profound and far-reaching potential of domestic tourism for our beloved country. We're going to slide 2 now, Zeno, to set the agenda for the discussion we're having today. We want to fully understand why we're here. And the primary goal of this online seminar is to underscore the significance of domestic tourism and its potential to drive economic growth and development, which is in line with the theme of this year's NES, Nigerian Economic Summit, which is coming up in October. By highlighting the economic benefits, we will illustrate how domestic tourism can contribute to Nigeria's GDP, create jobs, and stimulate local economies, especially in rural areas. We will also promote rural revitalization by discussing how tourism can preserve our cultural heritage, improve infrastructure, offer new opportunities for local businesses, and create new jobs. We will identify key strategies for promoting tourism, domestic tourism. That's key strategies for promotion, such as marketing campaigns, innovative methods for local travel using technology and social media. This seminar will also address the challenges faced in promoting domestic tourism and propose practical solutions to overcome these barriers. We will deliberate on the importance of collaboration between the government, private sector, tourism businesses, and local communities to achieve sustainable tourism development. And finally, the seminar will advocate for sustainable and responsible tourism practices that will protect our environment for future generations and also support our local cultures. Slide 4. At the end of this seminar, it is our hope that we all gain deeper understanding of the potential of domestic tourism, and that the heightened awareness will lead to more advocacy for rural development and economic diversification through domestic tourism. The discussions should also translate to actionable policy recommendations on infrastructure, on investment in infrastructure, regulatory frameworks that will make the business better for everyone, and community engagement will be stressed as well. We are also offering networking opportunities, as is usual with our webinars and events, that will foster collaboration among all the government agencies that are here, the private sector, the host communities that are here. So please feel free to use the chat room and respectfully engage with one another during our time here today. Now, let's delve into business by understanding what we mean by domestic tourism. And we'll start with some definitions. In 2005, Gillian Gale, in her textbook, Designed for Business and Technology Educational Council, the British Business and Technology Educational Council, she defined tourism, domestic tourists, as people who are traveling in their country for tourism purposes. And the UN qualifies it more. The UN tourism defines domestic tourism, a domestic tourist, as someone who spends at least one night away from their usual place of residence. And in his text on international tourism, Arjun explained that domestic tourism involves people traveling outside their usual place of residence to other areas within their country, as opposed to international tourism, which involves traveling beyond, national borders. So we can all agree that domestic tourism refers to the act of traveling for leisure or business within one's own country. It involves residents of a country visiting destinations within their national borders without crossing into another country. And this type of tourism can include day trips, overnight stays, extended vacations, all contributing to the local economy and cultural exchange within a particular country. The importance of domestic tourism, like the minister has just enumerated, it cannot be overemphasized, really. It plays a crucial role in economic growth by generating revenue, creating jobs in rural communities, especially, or in host communities, even if they are in urban areas, wherever there's a tourism enterprise, the community benefits a lot from the business. And so this helps to diversify the economy and reduce dependency on international tourists for countries that largely depend on tourism. Additionally, domestic tourism promotes rural revitalization by encouraging travel to less visited areas, leading to infrastructure improvements that benefit everywhere. It also helps preserve and promote cultural heritage, which foster national pride and unity. And environmentally, which is something that is very, very on topic now. Everybody's talking about protecting the environment. And so domestic tourism supports sustainability by reducing the carbon footprint associated with international travel and spreading tourist activities more evenly across regions. Socially, it provides opportunities for leisure, relaxation, and family bonding. And domestic tourism enhances crisis resilience by supporting tourism activities and revenue during global crises when international travel is restricted. You saw what happened during COVID, and in the immediate aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis, for example, some countries provided incentives for residents to visit local restaurants, theaters, tourist sites so that they could retain staff and keep those businesses open post-pandemic. So domestic tourism is actually a way for countries to build back after crisis. Slide 9, please. And we could, let's look at domestic tourism statistics. We must touch on that, and we look at the performance and also look at some case studies of domestic tourism campaigns and how they've worked. The slide 10, which you're looking at now, shows most of the tourism, most of the viable rural destinations in Nigeria, which we've identified. The Honorable Minister has touched on some of them, and there are so many more, of course. After we've shared this presentation, please feel free to come back to us and let us know of destinations in your communities that are not in this list that we've presented here, so that we can update them. Now, what's the situation in Nigeria now? The latest report from the World Travel and Tourism Council, the WTTC, emphasizes the crucial role of domestic tourism in Nigeria's economy. This year alone, already we're in August now, end of August, domestic tourism from, I looked this up just before this session, just to be sure where we are. And already domestic tourism spending in Nigeria has amounted to 4.95 trillion naira, which is about $7.7 billion, significantly exceeding the 491 billion from last year, which 491.9 billion, which is what was spent by international visitors. And so this highlights that domestic tourism is a major driver for economic growth in this country. And travel and tourism industry is expected to contribute approximately about 4% to Nigeria's GDP this year. And I did hear the minister talk about 3% employment contribution. So this translates to about 9.5 trillion naira that domestic tourism contributes to Nigeria's economy. Domestic tourism plays a major role in this growth, with domestic visitors spending significantly higher than that of international visitors, according to Statista. The largest market in Nigeria, not just for tourism, the largest market in Nigeria right now is hotels. And this is projected to have a market value of about $1.4 million. Additionally, by 2029, 70% of the total revenue in the travel and tourism market in Nigeria will be generated through online sales. And we're looking forward to discussing this with Waka now. And this also explains why a lot of investors are moving towards online tourism business. The number of hotel users is expected to amount to 18 5.7 million users by 2029. And user penetration is anticipated to increase from 11.3% in 2024, which is where we are now, to about 13% by 2029, according to Statista. And the average revenue spending will be about $127 per person. These figures are very, very important, and I want you to hold on to them because we're going to discuss them and what it means to the community, to the various communities. So you see that the sector is growing exponentially. The WTTC projects that tourism will support 2.7 million jobs, which is about 3%, by the end of this year. And this is up from 1.9 million from last year. The Nigerian travel and tourism market is expected to grow annually at the rate of 11.23%. And I'm really, really excited about this because when we started this journey 4 years ago, I remember when we were discussing the work plan, and I was telling Dr. Musu, my facilitator, that we're going to reach 12% by 2029, and he thought that was a very, very ambitious project, and we owned it. So we are currently at 11.23%, and I'm very, very sure we're going to get to that 12% by then, which is just a little fraction left. And remember that 2029 is a crucial year for tourism, especially for us in Nigeria, because that year is when the ECOWAS EcoTour project will come full cycle. And the expected contribution of tourism to global GDP is projected at 12%, like I said now. So 11%, we're not doing badly at all, 11.2. More Nigerians are choosing to explore our own country right now. And this has led to a boost in the hospitality sector and the development of new tourism offerings tailored to our own local tastes. There's also a growing interest in sustainable and eco-friendly travel practices, with travelers looking for environmentally conscious destinations, accommodations, and activities. And this is very good news for us as well. Our diverse cultural heritage and natural landscapes are significant attractions, with events like cultural festivals all over the country, the Lagos Fashion Week, which we're going to see how we can actually integrate that with our local tourism offerings, because a lot of international visitors come for that event. We also have our amazing music, our lifestyle, our bustling markets, and all these draw tourists looking for authentic cultural experiences, across the country. Slide 12, please. So we're going to look at some case studies because we're going to talk about marketing, and these case studies are drawn from, some of them, I'll tell you which, are drawn from the UN tourism reports. And I was particularly excited to see that Nigeria featured in these reports. We have, first of all, let's look internationally. Let's look at what Japan did with their Go to Travel campaign, which was launched in 2020. And the campaign aimed to boost domestic tourism in Japan after the COVID-19 pandemic. What did they do? The government provided subsidies covering up to 50% of travel expenses, including accommodation, transportation, and dining. And the impact was that the campaign significantly increased domestic travel, which helped to support local businesses when they could have died, because of the pandemic. Now, Italy introduced what they call the bonus vacances initiative in 2020, also post, when we're just coming out of the pandemic. And what they did was families with income, they provided families with income up to 40,000 euro received contributions of up to 500 euro to spend on domestic tourism accommodations. And the impact of this was that they successfully stimulated domestic travel, providing much needed economic relief at that time as well. And Rwanda wanted, the way they resolved their own situation was to offer a campaign that discounted travel packages as well to promote local attractions through various media channels. And this increased their interest in local travel and helped to diversify the tourism sector, which was totally dependent on international visitors before this time. Now, the exciting part of this whole thing is that we have the two initiatives from Nigeria, which were before the pandemic. And they were very, very impactful. We have the Visit Nigeria campaign, which yours truly initiated. And we did that to highlight the tourism offerings of Southeast Nigeria and show that it was safe to travel to Southeast Nigeria at that time, because a lot of people were skeptical. And the campaign offered discounted travel packages to tour operators, free travel packages to select bloggers, social media influencers, and Nollywood actors and Nollywood actors. We called on governors, commissioners, traditional rulers, met with local youth organizations, and had particularly useful discussions on how to protect visitors and tell better stories about the region. This trip was all over social media, and we followed it up with the Southeast Investment Forum, which attracted about 115 participants from all over the world. The outcome: it increased awareness of tourism offerings in the Southeast, especially the food, the music, the beautiful landscapes, the tourist attractions, the history, and how, we emphasized how easy it was to travel around the region with 3 airports, one at Enugu, with 3 airports, one at Enugu, one in Anambra, near Oka, and of course the one in Owerri. So it started, a lot of people started traveling to the region after that. And at least we know of 2 Nollywood, the direct results of the campaign showcased a movie village at Ihiagwa, which Nollywood is now using to promote their business. The UN also published the Tour Nigerian campaign, which was launched by NTDC in 2016. The Tour Nigerian campaign aimed to promote domestic tourism and encourage Nigerians to explore Nigeria. And this has been very, very impactful because many Nigerians began to see Nigeria differently after this campaign. The campaign included extensive advertising, cultural festivals, and collaboration with local communities. And this campaign has actually benefited a lot to, especially the rural areas and the festivals. The campaign involved promoting the Durbar Festival, the festivals in the Western Nigeria mostly. So now we can see that, next slide please, tourism can enhance our rural communities by boosting our economic, social, and cultural landscapes. Economically, it generates jobs in hospitality, retail, and transportation, and encourages new businesses like guest houses, restaurants, tour services, artisans that make gift items, farmers that produce, crops for restaurants, leading to increased income for local communities and artisans. Tourism fosters community development, domestic tourism. It fosters community development. It helps bring us together as Nigerians because we experience each other's cultures. And it also helps to link, villages together. If we really get into domestic tourism, you will see that the connectivity will be there. There will be improved infrastructure such as better roads, better healthcare, educational facilities will be provided. And it also provides youth employment and opportunities that help to retain them in their communities, because we know that people are happier where they are more comfortable. A lot of youth leave their communities to go to the city in search of better livelihood. But if they stay in their communities and they are gainfully employed, they will be really happy. Culturally and environmentally, tourism helps to preserve local traditions, crafts, and heritage, while responsible tourism practices support the conservation and natural landscapes and wildlife. All these are very important for the ecosystem. Overall, tourism promotes sustainable development that benefit both the environment and the community. Now, I think we'll just have to gloss over slide 14, the marketing strategies, because it's like preaching to the converted. We have the NTDA here. They are going to talk more of the strategies that they have for promoting this tourism, and the federal ministry too. We can talk about this later, all these strategies about how to market Nigeria to Nigerians. But I just wanted to add quickly here on slide 15 that there are several types of incentives that can be provided to boost, local travel, to boost domestic travel in Nigeria. And we can see all of that on slide 15. The role of technology too is something that we all know. We know how useful it is to use social media and technology to promote domestic tourism. Now, the infrastructure is something that is really key. And also domestic travel, like I said before, is going to help, to improve infrastructure if we are really serious about it, because the two have to go hand in hand. And we have to ensure that we have high quality services and facilities at tourist destinations, which include reliable electricity, water supply, internet services to meet the demands of tourists. And there's a huge opportunity for private investors as well. While public funds are allocated to marketing campaigns that promote Nigeria's diverse tourist attractions domestically and internationally, private investors can capitalize on the growing demand for diverse accommodation options, for example, from budget hotels to luxury resorts, and invest in creating and managing tourism services, such as guided tours, adventure activities, and cultural experiences. There's a huge market for creating itineraries, and the ministry and NTDA could organize competitions around this theme and get impactful, authentic, tested experiences to periodically concentrate on, instead of doing everything at the same time. And additionally, ecotourism, tourism projects, eco-friendly tourism projects such as nature reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, and sustainable lodges are increasingly popular and appeal to environmentally conscious travelers. And there are many. Our young people are so environmentally conscious, and there are some people that will not travel to destinations that don't have a high rating when it comes to the protection of the environment. And the good news is that there are many global organizations that fund ecotourism projects. So for those that want to go into these areas, it's very, very good news. And we can also leverage on Nigeria's cultural heritage, our sports, our creatives, and entertainment. Nigeria can, use this to, by hosting major sports events, developing tourism infrastructure, and promoting creative industry through film festivals, music concerts, fashion shows, cultural and entertainment festivals like Agungu Fishing Festival, the Onitsha Ofala Festival. Collaborating with influencers and celebrities can enhance visibility and draw fans to tourist attractions, creating comprehensive tourism packages that include sports events, cultural festivals, entertainment shows, can provide diverse experiences for tourists. And, they can all merge, they can all be merged, and we can also use digital platforms for promotion, visual tours, and online ticket sales can increase accessibility and engagement. These strategies can, help drive economic growth in this sector. Now, of course, there are risks and barriers, but we're going to look at them and also look at how we can overcome them. We face barriers such as insufficient stakeholder involvement and inadequate regulatory framework, funding, and investment challenges. But you see, all these challenges have been addressed in the new policy, which the ministry has just, is about to roll out. There's going to be a stakeholder engagement on that policy, and I hope you're all going to be there so that we can, really tweak it. But the challenges, like I said, have all been addressed or they are currently being addressed by the ministry. So overcoming the perceived risks and barriers, I call them perceived because they're not, they are something that is there in the air, but not really there, because we can overcome anything. And our domestic tourism requires a multifaceted approach, which involves policy reform, which is already happening. Stakeholder engagement is already happening. And the parts that we need to work on is the strategic investments in the areas where we've already highlighted. And securing adequate funding and attracting investments, particularly through PPP, is crucial for developing and maintaining these tourism infrastructures. Slide 21. Now, I don't want to end this without calling us to action. We must do something. All of us here, we are all stakeholders, because we have the government, we have the communities, and we have the practitioners. Stakeholders will play a crucial role in this project, in this domestic tourism project. The government is responsible for creating and implementing supportive policies, infrastructure, and marketing initiatives. We all know our roles. So this is the role of government. The private sector provides essential goods and services such as accommodation and transportation through investments that attract and retain tourists. Local communities will offer authentic cultural experiences and hospitality in partnership with government by ensuring sustainable tourism that benefits the local communities. Tourism organizations coordinate and promote activities. They advocate industry interests and improve standards. Everybody has their role to play including financial institutions who will provide necessary funding for tourism projects, while the NGOs will focus on sustainable practices and community development. By working together, all of us, all these stakeholders can create a robust and sustainable tourism sector that will drive economic growth and enhance Nigeria's tourism destinations. So to conclude, we can all see that domestic tourism is a powerful catalyst for rural revitalization and economic growth. We have to focus on empowering local communities. We can create sustainable tourism experiences that directly benefit the residents and create a sense of pride and ownership. This empowerment leads to job creation and entrepreneurial opportunities, which are crucial for poverty alleviation. As tourism flourishes, it provides a steady income stream for rural areas, reducing the economic disparities between urban and rural regions. So, it will help to curb the urban migration. Moreover, by enhancing the quality of life and economic prospects in rural areas, domestic tourism can help prevent rural migration, ensuring that communities remain vibrant and resilient where they are. So, and slide 24, what must we do? What are we going to do? And there are just a few suggestions here. First of all, I invite you all to join the NESG, the THITG of the Tourism, Hospitality, and the Tourism and Hospitality Industries Thematic Group of the Nigerian Economic Nigerian Economic Summit Group. We're doing a lot of work here. Zeno, please can you put the link to join in the chat room? We need everybody that is interested in tourism can join. We get a lot of input from members, and travel and discover Nigeria. There are so many new destinations within Nigeria, so many activities, so many things to do. Travel, tell us about it, advertise on social media, and invest in tourism businesses. Any way you can, we invite you to join us in this journey. And I thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much once again, Mrs. Ngozi Ngoka, for such a wonderful presentation. I can see the, should I say, e-claps for such a wonderful presentation. Thank you once again, Ma. You were able to give us a step-by-step explanation of the domestic tourism, looking at the importance of domestic tourism, such as economic growth, cultural preservation, the social benefits, amongst others. Also going on to look at the strategies for promoting domestic tourism, either through technology, incentives, infrastructure, and also looked at the risks involved and then outlined the strategies for overcoming the risks. So thank you very much, Ma. So I would also like to echo the echo. I will drop in the chat box the link to join the Tourism and Hospitality Industries Thematic Group. And also, like our madam has said, we would also like to encourage each and every one of us to travel and visit some of the tourist centers that have been outlined. Thank you once again, Ma. So going on, we're going into the major part of the event, which is the panel session. And I would like to welcome our moderator, Dr. Aisha Yusuf. Dr. Aisha Yusuf, you have the floor, Ma.
All right, thank you very much. Good day, everyone. Thank you for making time to be here. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ngozi Ngoka, for your presentation. You are right. This is the time that we take it from where we are to the next level. We're talking about the case studies. I love the part about marketing. There's so much we can do. Welcome to everybody. I would like to recognize the Honorable Minister, Mrs. Olade John. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for your opening speech. Thank you as well to Mr. Udeme Ufot. Thank you so much for the opening address as well. So I'd like to recognize all the panelists and the discussants for today. I would like to start with none other than Mr. Folorunsho Koka. He is the Director General of the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, NTDC, and he will be speaking to us today about, how we can enable strong demands in domestic tourism in Nigeria. And I'm really looking forward to that because we're going to be looking at options, opportunities for enhancing the funding of domestic tourism. Also on the panel session, we have Mrs. Bolaji Mustafa. She is the president of the Nigerian Association of Tour Operators, NATOP, and she will be speaking on exploring the triumphs and the trials of the Kanu Doba. Now, she's going to be talking about it from a cultural perspective. I'm really looking forward to listening to that. We also have Mr. Obi Asika. He is the Director General of the National Council for Arts and Culture. Thank you so much for being here today. I really look forward to you speaking on the role of media, art, culture on domestic tourism development. Also, we have Mrs. Shade Hughes. She is the MD of Mixta Hospitality Limited. They are the owners of Lakowe Lakes, and she will be speaking on revitalizing domestic tourism in Nigeria and the impact that it's going to have in innovative real estate and distinctive tourism experiences. We also have Ms. Omoyemi Akerele. She is the founder and CEO of the Lagos Fashion Week and Style House Files. She will be speaking on how we're going to be weaving the thread of prosperity. And she's going to be talking about it from a perspective of the fabric of Lagos Fashion Week and Nigerian tourism tapestry. That is something that hasn't really been tapped, and I'm really looking forward to that. We also have Mrs. Adenike Macaulay. She is the CEO of Waka Now, and she will be speaking about collaborative models for sustainable tourism and the tourism culture in Nigeria. Last but not the least, we have our able moderator, Mrs. Ngozi Ngoka. She is the Thematic Lead Tourism and Hospitality Industries Thematic Group of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Thank you so much for being here. So nice to have all these amazing speakers in the house, and I'm really looking forward to having this beautiful conversation. So I'd like to start with you, Mr. Funshe Koka. As the Director General of the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, it would be nice to understand how your perspective and your viewpoint, how can the public-private partnership, community involvement, government's own involvement, how are you going to bring all the government policies, the technology and innovation, all the financial tools, the sustainable funding models, all this coming together? How do you see that happening? How do you see that coming together to promote domestic tourism infrastructure in Nigeria? Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Domestic tourism is the foundation of all tourism. You cannot expect to build international tourism without a solid foundation of domestic tourism. Everything you go to Dubai to enjoy, to South Africa, to even London, is domestic to them. All you're connecting is an international ticket. So let us understand that domestic tourism, which is 6 times the size of international tourism, is something we must achieve by investing in our domestic economy. Without a solid domestic tourism industry, you really have to leave the word tourism alone, especially in expectations of international tourism. The existence of tourism is a reward to a country for a good home. You have water, you have power, you have security. The same thing a tourist consumes is what I as a local consume. So there's really nothing special about being able to provide what we need for tourism to exist and, create a strong domestic industry. So just get certain things right. Tourism can transform the Nigerian economy. It's the largest employer of labor in the world, over 300 million people. Strategically, women and the youth, which is what our problem seems to be mainly in terms of the demography of Nigeria, which is, I think, 65% are below between the ages of 18 and 35, something like that. So if we get tourism right, we can actually address the issue of employment, meaningful employment that is taxable, sustainable. The issue of technology in new tourism cannot be ignored. It's the new T in travel and tourism. I know we're all raised on pen and paper, but what is on the table now is iPhone. iPhone is a weapon of mass destruction. It can create you, it can destroy you. It depends on how you want to use it. Marketing has changed. Marketing is about purely digital forms of communication, search engine optimization, skits, I mean, you name it. I recall, I think my introduction to this sort of technologies was a fellow on this chat called Obi Yasika. And we did something in 2015. We beat the Redeemed Christian Church of Christ at crossover over midnight. We trended #1 with the protocol One Lagos in Lagos. I just had to say special prayers so that the people that we upset didn't take it personally. Now, what are the mediums of cultural expression that drive tourism that is available to us in Nigeria? We've got a music that beats, Afrobeat is beating the whole world. The film is #2 in the whole world. Our culinary skills, our fashion. I mean, you see them copy, I'm sure Omar Yele can speak to this. Every time you go to Paris, you find ideas that were locally grown in Nigeria popping up on the catwalks of international designers. But how? Our art, our spoken word, our dance. I mean, you see Chris Brown in America dancing to the latest dance by Davido. Those are things that are innately ours. And I'm sorry, I'm not talking about the traditional or the cultural tourism. I'm just even going to leave those alone, because if I go into them, there's a road from Lagos to Calabar. Is it stopping at any tourism sites? There's no intentionality even in the investment in tourism. The train track from Lagos to Ibadan, does it stop at any tourism site? The one from Abuja to Kaduna to Kano, where is it going? Does it stop? Does it lend itself to the value of any tourism site? When we talk about investment, I can't say too much, but I can suggest that, maybe something should stop by Yankari on the way to Maiduguri. Let it be purposed for what we need it to do. I was speaking to a senior of mine in Abuja here a few days ago, and the person said to me, I can't drive from Abuja to Yankari. And I thought, well, why not? Security. Yeah, there's no security, but there's security. I mean, we're all Nigerians. We know how this thing works. Now, if you can't drive from here to Yankari, and you have a purpose that is to promote this particular industry, there's something wrong. I've driven from here to Obudu. I was almost kidnapped in a Pandayon joint in Boku. I like my food. I must stop to eat. And when I tell people the story, I think I'm nuts, but people do it every day. How many people fly? 10% of Nigeria? 10% of 220 million? The new technologies allow us to tell our own story. The story of Nigeria and the assets of Nigeria must be told by a Nigerian in the context that a Nigerian, Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, gets it and relates to the oneness that we are. It is not for any foreign media to speak to, because they just they won't get it. I mean, if I say olele, ewe moi moi, because I am Yoruba, I know what it means, and I can teach you. Is that slither of moi moi that hides between two leaves? What professor of Harvard can come and explain that, or picture that and explain it to somebody who has no clue what I am talking about? I mean, do they have that moi moi slither in between two leaves in their country? In NTDA, I think some of you, if you check your phones, I sent you a flyer from the 24th of September, 2020, when we actually had this debate, I think it was during COVID or post-COVID, that domestic tourism, how do we reignite it? We don't own the Googles or Facebook or any of those things, but we have to use them. They're the same tools they use to demarket us that we must use to market ourselves. The Facebook, the Instagram, the TikTok, blah, blah, blah. We've got to push the positive about Nigeria onto those platforms for more people to see. The way to market Nigeria isn't come to Nigeria. It's to give Wizkid an opportunity to play in Abuja Stadium. People, our mediums of cultural expression, including religion, are a form of religion. If Wizkid is going to play for free for everybody now, if you allow Wizkid to come and play for free in National Stadium, I promise you, people will fly from all over the world to come and see this great performance in this great stadium. This stadium is the same as the one in Tottenham and Arsenal, all over the world. What is access? What are the equipment levels that are available? What are the government concessions? The government, if you can't give me money, then don't tax me. If you can't give me money, don't tax me. Or else give me one of your properties. Let me use it to borrow money at single-digit rates. Tourism hates expensive money. By the time I borrow money at 30% and I build a hotel, which will take 3 years, I might as well just hand the hotel back to the bank. It's done. I spoke to Obi yesterday and I talked about his corporate governance. You say, Obi, your laws are so archaic that if you don't change them, let me put it this way, if they didn't change the communications law in 1999, there will be no MTN. If they didn't change the banking laws before, there will be no GTB. So what? How do you want to drive the art and the culture of a people to endear people from diaspora, etc., even though from different regions of Nigeria, to go around to tour Nigeria and see the flavors of Nigeria without an exit, an entry and exit point for the private sector participation in funding? It can't happen. So your first problem is your corporate governance in terms of taxation, regulation, and legislature for arts and culture in Nigeria. Before we go into intellectual property, the next thing is human capital development. Pre-COVID, we didn't even realize how useful technology was going to be. My mother wasn't using WhatsApp during pre-COVID. Now, the technology that drives tourism is disruptive. I show more people Nigeria on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook than I could ever distribute brochures. NTDA's digital footprint is 10.2 million on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We produce videos and we are intentional about our videos because it's not some guy with a camera on his shoulder that's going around showing, shooting clips. No, it's Sheson Oguro who makes videos for Wizkid and Davido. The soundtrack is by Mastercraft. The editing is, sometimes we make videos that terrestrial TV cannot play because of the technology and the resolutions involved. We get requests for you to use our videos in documentaries from the BBC, from CNN. So we are intentional in what we produce, the standard, the music, the quality, the color separation, because we know that we need to do this to put it out there. The human capital requirements of tourism have also changed. You must have a digitally competent staff. When I say digitally competent, I mean from data mining themselves to production of skits that go onto your social media, to know what to hide and what to amplify, to know how to pay as cheaply as you can for something you want to boost. I mean, something can be this small in reality, but can be this big on social media. That's why sometimes government even gets into trouble, because a very little thing is blown out of scale by those who know how to push these agendas in terms of tourism. there are certain things that need to be done irrespective of the effort. We have a new law for NTDA. We have a new ministry for tourism. We have a new minister of tourism. But if we don't get in place the Presidential Council of Tourism, we will struggle. And let me explain why. Tourism requires the police, the customs, immigration, hotel association, airline association, so many people. They all sit on an executive council. Now, one minister cannot give orders to another minister, but the president who sits on top of the Presidential Council on Tourism can say, okay, I want to improve tourism. Immigration, you must not do double handling of passports at the airport. Customs, if I hear you collect any shishi at point of entry or exit, you're all going to jail. Police, you must teach your policemen to be particularly sensitive to the needs of tourists. One man who can give all those orders to everybody and everybody behaves as well is the president. So the Presidential Council of Tourism is, sorry, something is just popping up on my screen. It's crucial to the growth of tourism. Also, the tourism satellite account. If you want to guarantee your failure in anything, don't measure it. You will fail. The tourism satellite account allows us to measure certain things and to say, is this working? If not, how do we tweak it to work better? You know, up and down. And it's so much, the money that's coming in, hotel occupancy, complaints level, you name it, the tourism satellite account is needed for us to grow our tourism beyond where we are. Nigeria is also your cheapest holiday, for God's sake. $1 is 1,600 naira. Can you buy a burger in America for less than $5? So 1,600 naira, you can eat a good meal in this country. What is the rate of one room, hotel room? What? I mean $100, 160,000 for a pretty decent hotel room. You're not roaming your food. You're not converting any currency to dollar to take outside. You don't have to queue to any embassy to collect a visa, let alone pay for it. Nigeria has become, even though more expensive because of our currency depreciation, it has its perks in that it is my cheapest holiday. There are policies. A state of emergency needs to be declared by legislature to clean up the laws of each of the agencies, not just in the tourism industry. There are too many overlapping responsibilities. There are no clear and concise paths. This is your job. Maintain your lane, do your job. Too much overlapping. The government policies need to be clear for the agencies to achieve more than they're achieving. Yesterday, or was it the day before yesterday, I said, this is not the time for us to compete, but this is the time to collaborate. Obi and I have had a history from Lagos. We easily collaborate. Bolaji Mustafa, I know Omoyele, I know some of the members of the NESG group. And it is so easy to collaborate if we are intentional about it. Obi, I saw, has a program coming up at the end of this year, which is akin to the one Lagos we did in Lagos in 2015. And I don't see why quarterly we cannot anchor and do those things. And those things truly drive revenues to the community, rural or urban. I will recall a story where in Ikorodu, during the One Lagos Fiesta, a woman who was selling point and kill fish, she had bought her drum of fish ready for, I think, 23rd till January, which was, the festive period. In one day, she sold everything out. and went to go and buy another drum of fish. Same thing in Badagry with the suya seller who sold the whole ram in one day. And that's driving this thing to the communities. The revenues, there's nothing stopping the local rural community from actually experiencing that injection of cash. Our responsibility is to aggregate, create the enabling environment, aggregate the numbers. So the people that will come to this woman's shop in 1 month came in 1 day. That is the enabling environment that we need to create in some of these ecosystems where we can impact fund the creation of capital that allows them to grow over time.
Totally agree with you, sir. You're right. Enabling environment is going to do a lot. And you have said a lot of interesting things. And one thing that stands out is let's do things right, acting with intentionality. So, sir, please, I'm just going to ask to pause for a minute so we could also hear from the other panelists. You did say something very interesting that I like, that Mr. Obiasika and you were able to do and topple to the top, be listed as the top and trend in 2015. So Mr. Obiasika, I want to throw the second question to you. It would be nice to know, how these art festivals, the public art installations, all the things that we can do to boost and attract domestic tourism to showcase Nigerian artistic talents and cultural diversity. How can art be that cultural bridge? How can art be, packaged? How can we have this art tourism put out together? It would be nice to hear your thoughts, sir. Over to you, Mr. Obiasika.
Hi, thank you very much. Greetings to everybody on the call. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
great.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so, I think, first of all, I wouldn't go as narrow as just art. My council has sort of responsibility over the entire sector. There are like 49 subsectors. So it's film, music, television, visual arts, performing arts, animation, gaming, esports, dance, culinary arts, all sorts of things. And what we have seen, and as my brother Foley had just spoken to you, what we've seen consistently over the years, I've just come into the public sector, has been that the agencies in the public sector that have responsibility for these sectors, which most of whom have thrived without government, there's a big gap. There's been a big gap between, there's a gap between the capacity. There's capacity within the public sector, but a lot of it is not connected to the ecosystem, does not really understand what the ecosystem is doing. And therefore, there's a little bit of tension between the private sector and the public sector. I think for me, starting off from the point of collaboration, we're collaborating with everybody. We seek to collaborate both with the public sector and the private sector and regulators and the diplomatic side and the development side and funders. So it's almost like a virtual circle, right? When you talk about arts and public installations, one of the things we've talked about, and there's some very, very deep roadmaps that have been developed before I even came on board by the minister and her team in the Ministry of Art, Culture and Creative Economy, is that how do you, for example, create legislature? When Foley was talking about legislature, it's one of the first things I looked at in the council. My law was established in 1975, the last review is 1987, at which point in time, that digital is not even in the conversation, that AI, all these things we're talking about are not in the conversation. So we need to do a lot of work just to come into that conversation. I'm fortunate because I came from the private sector and I have private sector partners that I'm able to engage and leverage on and partner with, and also public sector partners. And that's really the way we've been going. The resource issue is a big issue. This sector, as well as tourism, has been defunded for decades. So, you're trying to get people to produce miracles, but you're not giving them the resources. But at the same time, it must come back to also seeing value in yourself, right? Part of the problem with Nigerians is they don't necessarily see the value in being Nigerian. I was in Oyo town last weekend. I've talked about Shango and Thor for 20 years almost, and I finally got to Shango's hometown. I got to Shango's hometown and observing the festival, and exactly what I've been saying nonstop about the festivals that we have and the problem we have is translation of culture, right? We don't translate our culture to each other, let alone to anybody else. That's number one. Number two, we're disconnected from our culture, which is a big problem. So you have a situation where, I say Shango is broke somewhere outside Lagos, and Thor, his first cousin from a much smaller place, is approaching $30 billion. And what is the difference? Nigerians say it's packaging. It's not packaging, it's investment. It's the ability to reimagine your mythology, the ability to tell your stories, the ability to share those stories and to make them connect. Anything you watch on television, whether it's sports, whether it's movies, the thing that gets you is the storytelling. Because once the story has got you, you're emotionally connected to the issue, and from there you will do whatever you need to do. And that's the same thing Nigeria has to do. Nigeria has to back the storytellers. If we're not going to spend money on the infrastructure, then we better spend money on the storytellers to attract people who will come in and spend money on the infrastructure. Do you understand? It's like we can't just sit there forever talking about potential. It becomes tiring. At the same time, you know, we're an interesting country. With all the challenges in the tourism sector, as far as I know, we still have the most keys and rooms opening on the continent. So obviously, the hotel industry is booming. Obviously, there's more coming, but we don't seem to have enough resorts. We don't necessarily seem to have enough destinations, even though we have all those locations that the Honorable Minister was talking about. But are those locations in a position to promote themselves to attract people? Now, coming back to your question about the art festival, I mean, ArtX Lagos, I think, has shown everybody what can be done in terms of art festivals, right? And it's just about communication, storytelling, and curation, right? It's a combination of those three things that delivers something great that everybody wants to be a part of. There's literally nobody in the art world worldwide, from Bonhams to Sotheby's to Christie's to Art Freeze, all the art people come to ArtX Lagos because they've created something that is world-class. And once you create something that's world-class and delivers an experience that has value, people will come. And I think that's what we're trying to do. So you're all invited to the National Festival of Arts and Culture, November 20th to 22nd to 30th in Abuja, which is what my brother was talking about. We also have the International African Arts and Craft Expo at the end of October. And yes, we're trying to bring the superstar artists home to perform in our stadium so Nigerians can feel that sensation and feel the experience and not just watch it, you know, in another country delivered for somebody else and another 100,000 people who are not Nigerian to enjoy our content and our talent. I think that we have the capacity to build the touring ecosystem in this country. We're working on that. My council, we just signed a deal with a venue provider for 6 venues in 6 states. We hope to get to the whole 37. But again, it's about funding. It's about partnerships, about collaboration. If I was sitting here waiting for the money to come from the government to build it, I might be here 6 years or 4 years, whatever my term is, and I'll be left and they'd be asking me, what did I do, right? Which is what people ask because they don't understand how government works. I think that at least we have a situation where this president and this government have been intentional in creating this ministry, have been intentional in backing the sector. What we're looking for now is the funding to enable us to push through because, you know, I can only talk for so much, right? I can only talk for so long. At some point in time, if you're a visual artist, if you're in drama or theater, if you're in fashion or food, whatever you're in, you want to know that, okay, there's actually something for us. And it's not necessarily contracts or, or cash. It's more to do with creating the enabling environment, enabling access for these sectors, celebrating them at the right way, the right level. I mean, we're here at NESG, right? The 30th anniversary is coming, and I certainly pray that the business of entertainment is a top-line topic at the 30th anniversary. I haven't seen Nigerian business, Nigerian capital markets discuss, analyze, and celebrate the Maven Records deal. And I don't know why. Because it's $118 million. I don't know, how much is that in Naira? Is anybody else doing that kind of business? I don't know. I mean, you can show me the people who are doing that, who are creating this value, except my sector. I don't know who they are. What are they making? What are they doing? So I think that we tell the stories. The brand of Nigeria before was all about what globally? It wasn't positive, was it? But today, everybody worldwide talks about, oh, the Nigerians are so creative. They're so intelligent. The music is so good. The fashion is incredible. The dance is incredible. Sadly, the football isn't quite as good as it used to be. But this is what we are bringing to the table. And for art, just like anything else, I mean, you will see at NAFest where we're working with 8 galleries. We're going to have conversations and panels. We're going to bring some real legends together and celebrate them and really have some deep conversations around some of these topics. But just to say my own piece on domestic tourism, I think domestic tourism, just like anything else in this country, is about storytelling and it's about leadership by example. When we begin to see our governors go on holiday in some of our best local domestic places, more people will go there. Leadership just has to lead. I remember President Obasanjo is designated Obudu for the presidential retreats. I don't think since he's been there, any Nigerian president has been there. These places are stunning places. I took Hugh Masekela there in 2007. He kept asking me, like, you didn't tell me you were taking me to heaven. I said, well, I mean, it is what it is, right? We have a beautiful country, from the rainforest to the savannah, from the deserts to the swamps. We have it all. We have incredible people, incredible culture. The diversity is unbelievable. I might dispute the minister's number of 800 festivals because Edo State told us they have 1,000. Do you understand? So Taraba State has 287 languages. Plateau State has 200 languages. If we are not prepared to tell the story, if we're not prepared to show who we are, why should we complain about anything? Nobody's going to invest in us unless we invest in ourselves. It's just as simple as that, right? So the point is, and I think it's the key point, is that for Nigeria to achieve the targets that Ngozi talked about earlier, it's about intentionality. I remember in 2005, I was with Foley, not 2015, we went to an event in Lagos, the Hotels Association, and they told us 10,000, 2003, they told us by 2018 or 2025, 10,000 new rooms in Nigeria. That was just the hotels. That wasn't real estate development. It wasn't real estate development. It wasn't anything else. It was just the hotels, right? And I think that if we are intentional, you will find that just like in every other sector, if you have the right policies and the right communication and the right storytelling, the people waiting to come into these sectors, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, are endless because the Nigerian opportunity is limitless. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Obi. You really did say a lot about everything that we're trying to achieve. And one thing stood out, we need to tell our stories. And you're also rehashing what Mr. Folorunsho Koka said earlier about bringing in intentionality. We have to say, this is what we want. This is where we're going. How do we tell our stories? How do we even invite other people to come in when we ourselves are not promoting and embracing who it is that we are, embracing our culture, our dance, and everything all together. Thank you so much for that. It's everything that we want to hear. It's everything we want to do. So I think you're right. We have to start from leadership and then go into, taking all those potentials we have and actually actualizing it. Thank you so much, sir. So real quick, I'm going to jump to...
1 second. Yes. There's something he also talked about, which I want us to actually take away. He talked about not just talking about what we're going to do, but also the action. Now, the marketing drive that we embarked on for the Southeast was followed up by an investment summit. So without that, first of all, he talked about policy, you talk about the marketing, and then you have to have investment. You cannot have investment by just talking about or marketing your product. You have to bring them together and show them the potential. And this is what he has highlighted here. So I wanted us to actually, focus on that as well.
All right, thank you so much for that.
Can I just add one last thing? Just one last thing, because it was mentioned and I didn't say anything about it, which is about soft power and technology, right? We have Nigerian influences across music, sports, entertainment, Nollywood, fashion, who combined have well over 1,500,000,000 followers on social media. That's a lot of people. Davido alone has 40 million followers. Some countries don't have 40 million population, right? If we are intentional and we produce the content and we collaborate properly, we have endless marketing potential, endless leverage on every single platform that exists on the planet. Because Nigerians are traditionally viral anyway, right? Yeah. But the key issue is we have to connect it, we have to engage it. As Foley was saying that thing, I was remembering how we did it. And I remember we were discussing it before and I said, listen, it's crossover night. We know what's going to happen. The phones all get jammed in Nigeria crossover because every Nigerian is sending SMS message to his family member, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. All the prayers are going, but we still trended #1 because he pulled out 2 million people in Lagos in one day, in 5 locations at the same time, and he didn't even have a budget. So how did we do it? The question is, we can do it across Nigeria. We have the capacity, we have the people. Sheson Ogunro that he's talking about has been shooting incredible visuals for Tour Nigeria for 6 years. I'm collaborating with them. We have a project called Origins. All that content is also going to come to Origins. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to go and shoot the same thing again. Why would I do that? It's been shot already. So what I need to work out is, how can I license it so that you can see what he's saying, so they get their money, right? Because the content costs a lot of money to produce. You know, when people are saying, oh, you're just blowing grammar, you're just talking, you're just doing whatever. If you don't tell the story, it doesn't matter. Nobody will know what you're doing. I'm from the East. If you don't know, I'll tell you that Nnewi is the home of innovation in Africa. There's nowhere else that has 1,500 factories that government does not invest a kobo. But guess what? Nobody has seen Nnewi. So I'm telling you this thing, but you haven't seen it yourself. And if you're Black, that means you don't believe it. Because Black people don't believe anything they don't see. So if we don't tell the story and show the place, hey, we're talking to ourselves.
I totally agree, sir. We really look forward to educating people, enlightening them, creating the awareness of what we have, the ownership of it. That's something I was talking about with a few colleagues of mine some years back, and it was about ownership. You know, and what I love about tourism is that it actually encourages people to be patriotic. Because if I have my own area, if I have my own town and I see something lovely and I set it up and I invite people to come see it, before you know it, I'm owning it. It's my thing. I'm proud of it. And if everybody is able to do that in their own location, the ripple effect is going to be really amazing. And that way we are telling our stories from scratch, you know, from our own perspective, and other people are not telling us our own stories, because that has been the narrative for the longest. Other people come, ask questions, and they tell us our story. And we're like, oh, okay, if you say so. But what you're saying, sir, is that we have to take ownership of that, set it up as we want it to be, how we see the future of tourism, especially domestic tourism in Nigeria, and then taking it on from there by presenting our story to the world and attracting them to come to us, because we have everything that it takes. Thank you so much for that, sir. So quickly, I'm going to go to Mrs. Bolaji Mustafa, as she is the president of Nigerian Association of Tour Operators, NATOP. It would be nice to hear your perspective on the collaboration between different tourism associations. You know, how can they significantly enhance their impact in tourism and development? How can these tourism associations effectively contribute to this development and the growth that we're trying to achieve in the tourism sector? You know, how I'm sure there are a lot of things going on when you think about advocacy, networking, the training, the education. We've talked about marketing and promotion. We've talked about different standards, research, data collection, the full works. It would be nice to know, you know, what you have in mind about that, what you think we can do differently, and the significant impact, again, of the domestic tourism industry. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone on board here. I'm really very delighted to be here this afternoon, and I'm happy that, you know, about the first speaker, Ngozi, what she's spoken about the stakeholders' involvement. I'm really happy that, you know, the stakeholders are being recognized, and, you know, and for us to actually face the impacts of tourism. Now, I'm going to talk about the collaboration and all this thing that has been said about telling our story, about collaboration, everything you've spoken about since morning. It's what NATOP has been doing. NATOP has been telling the story all this while. And in our next step, we've been working hard to collaborate with different ministries on how we can actually promote tourism, how we can go out there to tell our stories. And going around again about what NATOP has been doing is, you know, we use our AGM. Recently, it was a typical example of what we have done to showcase what domestic tourism is all about. NATOP go around every year, collaborates with different states to actually promote domestic tourism. This recent, I think we did our AGM in Kwara State, collaborate with Kwara State and involving different stakeholders, vendors, the local vendors, to come and participate in our AGM to showcase their culture so that they can, people can know what it is about tourism. And that's way, this is also the first time when you talk about collaboration, when we rolled out our AGM, one of the first people that got in touch with us was actually the Kwara State University, that's KWASU. I, for one, did not know that KWASU has a tourism department. And they wrote to us that you are doing something like this in Kwara, your AGM, we want to be part of it. And we looked at how we can actually work together. So during our AGM, they were following us, on all the, the media activations and everything. They were there present at our AGM, and we made it as a point of thing that we have to visit the university. NATOP group on our tour during the second day when we're touring out Kwara, we visited the university and we realized and, had a conference to say that, you know what, we can partner in this way while you are doing the teaching in the school there at the tourism department. We can take up the aspects of, taking up the tourism aspect of, the physical aspect of the whole thing. When you teach them the theory part of it, then we can take up the physical aspect. Some of these people that graduates from the school can actually work with some of our stakeholders here to actually promote tourism, because some people are all out there to say that they don't have jobs and everything. When they graduate, what do? They can work with some of us. That's one of examples of the way NATOP have actually collaborate with some organization with the university. And also recently, one of the things that we have gone out to actually talk with the ministry, like the NTDA mentioned, that we've been discussing on collaboration on how to jointly market this destination. And we have reached out, of course, we went to visit the NCAC to say, how can we collaborate, work together on, advocating for Nigeria, promoting this destination. Apart from, there are two things out there. People need to get it right. There's domestic tourism, there's also inbound tourism. As we promote domestic tourism, because NATOP used its AGM to actually make Nigerians to know Nigeria. Part of it is, last year we had an AGM in Ekiti. I've never been to Ekiti, to the Warm Spring, but that opportunity was there because, our AGM took me there. And I had to go back again in December, with my family to say, you know what, this is where I'm going to spend December. I'm not going to, because that's knowing Nigeria. That's actually patronizing Nigeria. So that's the domestic aspect of it. In the other side is to say that, some of us have been working with different DMCs all over there. We want to also go out there to market Nigeria. We want to be able to do our business, sell in dollars, not only take dollar house, but buy dollar. We want to sell to our local. If you check their portal, you see different lists. You will never find Nigeria on the list of, let me say, some of the booking portals that some of the DMCs over there have. They quote to us in dollars. We want to be able to enlist some of the products. One of the takeout I learned while we visited the NCAC, Mr. B, was to say, you know what, you need to create a product to sell out there. Now we have, create a product we want to take out to all our DMCs to say, you know what, you need to also put Nigeria on the forefront here. When you need people to visit here, you need to sell on your booking portal, Nigeria. So those are one of the ways. And one of our ways of advocating to say, of collaboration was we had a meeting recently to say, why can't we all, the association, the NANTA, the NATOP, the OFA, everybody. Yes, one of the things that Mr. Folarin Kuka has been advocating for is collaboration. That, you come to this association, the tour operators are ready to collaborate. That's why we've been working with different states so that we can go under the body of Nigeria. not going to somewhere like, any trade exhibition, somewhere like WTM or all these places to go and market Nigeria, not only as NATOP, you understand, to go under the umbrella of Nigeria, to say, to see Nigeria representing in a particular exhibition is a whole lot of things. And you can talk about, like collaborating with, let me say, the music industry, the creative industry, like some of the celebrities, the fashion industries, you understand, under the body of umbrella of Nigeria, to talk about inbound tourism now. When you're going out there, it's inbound. When you're selling within here, it's domestic. So to talk about these together will really, really, really go a long way. And I think that's the direction to go. And one way, because you mentioned earlier that I was going to speak on the Durbar Festival. Yes, you see, this last AGM, I'll always refer to, because it's what all that has been said is what NATOP has been advocating for, and we have been using our AGM to promote that. For this last AGM, we partnered with the Durbar, Ilorin Durbar, I would say the Kwara Durbar. We have been able to showcase a bit of what Durbar is all about at our AGM. The first day, where that's tourism, you understand, and engaging all the local vendors there to come and exhibit. You will see at our AGM where you have the people selling art and craft. There's a woman from one of the neighboring states there in Kwara State, one of the neighboring places to Ilorin. She produces shea butter. Ori, she was there because the people from France actually visited our factory. We contacted, come and bring your product to sell here. She was there. We had different kind of meal showcased at our AGM. You have the amala, you have the tuwo, you have different, every food. That afternoon, we did not serve any continental dish at our AGM. We did only the local dishes. We had tuwo and begiri. We had amala on board there. We had, even if you don't know how to eat swallow, we had rice, the local ofada rice with stew. We had the, the dry fish where people are eating. So everybody, outside Lagos that have not been to Kwara, experience, that's domestic tourism, experience what it is, the food of some. I've had one of my colleagues to say, you know what, I want to fly back to Ilorin to go and taste that jollof rice we had, to go and taste that tuwo and everything like that. Durbar in Kwara partnered with NATOP to come and showcase the Durbar. The first visit to the Emir's Palace, they kitted up 10 horses for us on the first day. And on our AGM day, they dressed up 15 horses for us to showcase at our AGM. The First Lady of Kwara State was present there. The minister was also there. She has never been to Kwara. You understand? That's working together in promoting domestic tourism. That's collaboration. That's a lot. And we need that support to do more, than, within, as we're advocating within ourselves, trying to tell people about, domestic tourism here. We want to also go out to sell our inbound, to promote this Nigeria. And I know together with all the ministries and everything, we can take things higher and we can achieve the same goal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mrs. Bolaji. That was fantastic. I do agree with you. As you were talking, I was thinking about the jollof rice and the begri and ewedu and all the wonderful things that I would experience, because even if I haven't tried it before, it's part of the journey. It's part of tourism, exploring food, culture, the people. I love the collaboration with universities because they are doing a lot. I was in part of a team that went to the University of Technology at Abeokuta, and also their tourism hospitality department, very vibrant, very active. I love the fact that you're going to be working with young people. By the time we started, just like I said before, embracing it has a lot to do with patriotism, and we're going to be teaching them. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your contribution. At this point, I'm going to just jump to... Yes, please.
I wanted to add something about this collaboration, because we tend to get a lot of things modeled up when we talk about. I like the way Bolaji spoke about collaborating with the locals, with restaurants and all of that. And that's how it should be. Different aspects of these collaborators have their own roles. For example, the government has their role, the tour operators have their role, the business owners, NGOs and all of that. Let us not conflict them. I have been to so many trade shows in my career, so many. And I think when you go to some trade shows, you will find that the government, they have their own stance. The tour operators, they have their own. Kenya Tourism, for example, I've met them at ASTA conferences in the US for many, many years. They always come on their own. The support you get can be internally gotten. It doesn't have to be from government, because most tourism boards, what you must understand, I don't know how it currently works in Nigeria, and this is something that we will discuss with the minister later. Most tourism boards have to present a balance sheet. They are not there to dish out money to private or people. You start your business to, to make money. You source for funding for your business, and so tourism boards also have that challenge as well, to make they have to report their balance sheet, and it has to balance. So if they are giving you money for something, you have to show what you're going to bring in terms of numbers, in terms of how much you're bringing in and all of that. And they have their budget for advertising and for marketing. That marketing budget actually comes from the business owners, not from government. If there is a fund, the fund is for tourism development. It's not to use that fund and dish out to people doing their own private businesses. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So we need to think smart and think of how to help ourselves. In fact, in some cities that I've investigated, I'm doing some work for Houston First, which runs the tourism business in Houston. And I discovered there that they stopped dealing with associations about 4 years ago, because the associations were they trapped their members, and their members were not able to grow, and they invited hotels, tour operators and everybody to register individually with them, so that they can benefit directly from the state, from the government. So when you talk about collaboration, you need to also think about what you yourself as a business owner, how you can collaborate with hotels, for example, how you can create itineraries based on the people that you met, and you create your itineraries with different, you can create your itineraries with hotels directly. You can create your itineraries with the communities, and actually engage their youths to provide security for you. Do you understand what I mean? It doesn't.
Yes. Sorry. Let me just let me just touch on what you've just said. No association or no private company would say the ministry should come and dish out money for their own pocket. I don't think a reasonable person will come from that angle. Let me just clarify that. You understand? Nobody would come out to say what you are about the collaboration you are asking for is to give you a kind of soft landing. I'll give you an example. For the last AGM we had in Kwara, it was basically collaboration. It was individual sponsor, collaborating with hotels. Most major hotels came there, showcase. Apart from the hotels, you have the University Kwasu, you have the local vendors showcase there. That's the collaboration. None. Till as at now that I'm still talking to you, I'm telling you, it was solely the association fund, the individual fund, and the support from individual, not from this, except we receive that support tomorrow. But you know, they were there to actually receive us, to put a soft landing.
Yes.
You understand? When I came from, because if they are not involved, we won't get things done easily. Like from the part of saying, oh, the ministry, like the Ministry of Information and Culture, all the things that were done, they made it easy because this is the direction we want to go. I wanted the people from THITG, you understand, they had a very rich culture there. But, you know, without the ministry, it was not going to be possible. They helped to reach out because they know the local people there to say, you know what, and we're going to give you.
That's their role.
Yes, that's the security. We had an ambulance on ground because there were going to be an horses. You understand? People are going to be climbing on horses there. I had to get in touch with the Ministry of Health. That's how far. We had to get in touch with the police and all that. That's the aspect we have gone to. You understand? So nobody, no individual, no stakeholder, no association will say, come and give us money to our pocket or to fund. I'm just saying in enhancing and the procedure of trying to promote or do this, you need the backing of the government. You need that soft landing. And you need them to say, it's not about just dishing out money, to say, you know what, I think you can, you know, by endorsing some things and say, this and this, you can work together to actually achieve that need. It's not just only about money.
Mm.
But when we start having like this and, you know, this kind of even conference and, you know, talks and things, it goes a long way. When we meet with 9 authors is to say, you know what, how do you train our people? How do you train the tour operators to know the work of, to know this well, so that they won't just, you know, be teaching out things. You need to, you know, add to your, what you call itinerary on what you are going to be training the tour operators. You know, all these things we work together in that line. Not just.
I totally agree with you.
For example, when Nanta went to WTM last year, you know how Susan managed to get everybody to, you know, they did that without any government support.
That's the thing. That's what that's what I just said, that we're trying to see how we as associations offer, which is what's it called, the offer, that's Hotel Association. Nanta, everybody come together to go and showcase, but you know, not just going as just NATOP and going under to say, you know, we want to go and market Nigeria. When you do things jointly, you know, the joint marketing thing, it will go a long way. That just join. I don't want to go deep into what you have just said, because if I have to analyze it, we'll be here all through. If Nanta is there, Nanta is, you understand, is travel agents, you know, of Nigeria. If you work together with the tour operator who are actually doing this business, it goes a long way. You work together. When those people come from there, which hotels are they going to stay? What rate are you getting to actually put them a subsidized rate? This is collaboration. Yeah, you have talked about. So it goes a long way. And you have all the hassles and, you know, issues you might have with their incoming here with the customs and everything. That's where the government comes in. And if you have any issues with this thing, I can easily say, oh, you know. And another thing is, okay, Mr. Folarin Koka has been there promoting and talking about, he showed me all the things there that he has been trying to do, you know, weekend in Abuja and everything. I looked at the flyer. Everything on it is fantastic. And I looked at it. The only thing missing there is the tour operator's involvement, which that's the way to go. And that's one of the things we have talked about. So I'm coming from that angle, not begging money from anybody to come and put in our pockets. So that's
no, and I didn't say that you were.
So I need to clarify that, because people will not understand.
True. Thanks so much for the clarification there. I appreciate it. I see that Mr. Koka wants to just drop something in a quick 10-second period. Yes, sir.
Yes. Bolaji, thank you very much for referring to that document that I shared with you. Yes, there's a product there called My Abuja Weekend.
Yes.
NESG, I'll also send this to you. Government has no business in business. This is a government agency packaging talking to the hotels, the airlines, putting something together, which tour operator and sold it? Nobody. But government has no business in business. The business is yours. It's also create an enabling environment for you to exist in. That's number one. Number two, tourism does not like politics.
Yes.
Politics has no space in tourism. Tourism should not be politicized.
Yes.
If you don't keep those things, especially even in the elections of some of your associations, I see the trouble. The other day, you came here and I said, what a coup. I saw what was going to happen before it happened. I've been in this sort of ecosystem, this space for 25 years, in this particular industry for 9 years. If I haven't learned anything, then I'm a complete loom. Now, you mentioned something else, the global tourism markets. Okay, you went there last year. What did you bring back from your expenditure of how many million? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Not. What did you bring back? Wait, whoever good. What did you bring back from it? From your expenditure, you are just a tourist. It's like going to Davos, like going to Onga to go and discuss our problems. What can you sell in Nigeria today as it exists? Build your market here. Grow your Naira. Grow your domestic industry. It's not in London or in Spanish travel markets that you're going to grow it. You are just going to waste money.
It's part of it, sir.
Okay, let's do something else.
We have Dubai Roadshow coming into Nigeria every year to come and market their destinations, sir.
They are paying that. Sorry, they already have a solid domestic industry to market you.
That's what we want to start building.
So let us start with the Abuja-based Nigeria Tourism Fair. Let the whole of Nigeria, the whole of West Africa come here. Why are you going there to
we always have Aquaba every year. They've been coming.
Yeah.
We are the ones on the field. So we
sorry, you have what?
Sir, please
you
go
have
on.
What?
Aisha.
Don't let me talk. Let me maintain my silence.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you, on the virtue, by the virtue of
let Aisha go on, sir. Thank you very much.
Let me just finish this point. By the virtue of your population, the popularity of your tourism driving assets, you should have the largest tourism fair in sub-Saharan Africa, at least in Abuja here, for just NATO.
Yes, that's how we go. That's the part of the collaboration. Without you, we can't do it in Abuja.
I can already hear Mrs. Balaji saying, I can already hear you saying, challenge accepted. We're taking it on. We're owning it, and charity begins from home. We will start promoting and we'll start owning. And I believe that from this conversation, these are conversation starters that are supposed to excite people to look forward to it. And that's what we're going to be doing. That's the essence of these conversations. Let's start it. Let's promote. Let's get people into that mood. Let's get them excited about Nigerian tourism again. Yes, we're saying security, but here, domestic tourism. So as you said, Mr. Coker earlier, we know how we do it. We can embrace it. Of course, the government will have to do their own bit by ensuring the most that they can. But while they are doing that, we also must find other alternatives. We're totally solutions focused when it comes to local tourism, especially domestic tourism. Thank you so much. We really have very limited time. So I'm going to rush quickly to Mrs. Sade Hughes. She's the MD Mixer Hospitality. They are the owners of Lakua Lake. So real quick, I'm going to do a 2-in-1 question. We're going to focus on just quick feedback, quick 5 minutes on how ecotourism, how it affects real estate development. Let's talk about smart tourism infrastructure, the mixed use of the development. How are we talking about, how are we focusing on heritage preservations, taking it into development, especially how we integrate smart homes, residential, cultural, institutional. How do we do all this? How can we use all this mixed use development benefits for residents and tourists alike? Over to you, Mrs. Sade Hughes.
Thank you so much. And this has been a really exciting session so far. And I'm going to bring, in my own perspective, what a lot of people could actually, sort of ask themselves, what has real estate really got to do, with the topic of tourism that we're discussing. So I think, first of all, the most important thing is to say that real estate, which is a sector that I have been involved in my entire working life, which is quite a few years so far, is about human beings. It's about the built environment, the built up and the outdoor environment, and it's used by who? By human beings. So I think that's the first important thing to say. The topic that I'm supposed to talk about, I'm supposed to introduce the fact or to talk about mixed use developments. Ngozi, when she was speaking, spoke. I can see that she is bringing the real sort of, shall I say, the business of what we're talking about into the discussion as well. And that also brings me to the fact that, as a real estate developer, your projects have to be bankable. You have to be able to optimize whatever it is that you're trying to develop. And what we do, at Mixta is that we develop on, rather large scale. And we talk about, building communities and the rest of it. And so for me, it's something venturing into the topic of the day, which is really about tourism and how real estate is contributing to that. It speaks directly to an aspect that I have been fortunate enough, shall I say, to have been involved with in a few years ago. Hospitality, I would say, is a specialized part of real estate because any sort of hospitality outing has to have a very large capital investment in a structure. It's either a hotel, it's either a business hotel, a resort hotel, all sorts of different subsets of that topic. So having been involved with a large business hotel in a mega city in Lagos, I've also been very fortunate to have been involved in and currently involved in a kind of a resort, in a resort type of hospitality outing. And that also takes us into to the fact that we are also speaking about eco-friendliness of developments. When we speak also about things like how nature friendly is the resort or is the hospitality outing. We talk about carbon footprints, which is another very important thing that is rearing its head globally. And I see no reason why Nigeria also should not be part of this global movement as well. We talk about, preserving our wildlife. We talk about, the environmental, social, and governance, the ESG pillars that everybody is speaking about these days, and our movement, the global movements, and our movement in Nigeria as well. And for responsible businesses, responsible developments, responsible developers to also take these ESG goals and apply them to whatever they're doing in whichever way that they can. So let me just take us into, and then of course, it takes us, those kind of discussions take us into talking about sustainability, back to our, in the South, if you're designing your architecture, how tropically friendly is it? How are your roofs designed such that it can get rid of rainwater from these tropical downpours that we have? How much cross ventilation do we have up in the north? Your fenestration in your windows, they're kind of smaller because you have a lot of dust and the rest of it. So it's a very, how do I say, it's a very vast discussion that we can have on this. But I'm just going to try to focus on the talking points that were shared earlier. We've spoken about sustainability and ESG goals even whilst we developed. While we develop, we also speak about how we can also make whatever it is that we design and develop a part of the tourist ecosystem. So I think, to be very specific to this discussion, I'm going to relate everything to a particular project that we're continuing to work on. It's called Lakoi Lakes Golf and Country Estates. It was put in the little, in the little intro that I had. So I'm not going to be shy about just directing, our talk about that. This is a project and this is a development that has brought all of these notions into being. First of all, it speaks directly to the natural wildlife. It speaks to wellness. It speaks to the great outdoors, and it also speaks to the impacts I did say that real estate has everything to do with human beings. So it also speaks directly to the human beings who have worked on building up this resort, directly to the ecosystem of local suppliers, local vendors, local materials, local artisans that we have, employed and used, the talent. Mr. Sika and Mr. Coker have spoken about the vast talents that we have in Nigeria. I can only echo that as well and say that in the real estate version of that, we are bringing the best of that, the best of our local. We're using things like mats to make ceilings, to make an eco-friendly ceilings in our okay, this is a photograph. Thank you. Thank you, Zina. This is a snapshot of a part of Blackwell Lakes Golf and Country Estate. You can see that timber is being used to build the home. Within the ceilings here, I don't think we have an interior shot. We have used our local our local mats to make the ceilings of this. You can see the abundance of green. I can't but also speak about the COVID, and I can't also but speak about the fact that, they say sometimes when you're given lemons, you have to know how to make lemonade out of it. We're proud to say that COVID was a turning point even for this particular resort. You know why? Because this is another snapshot. And actually this snapshot speaks about how there's real estate in the background there. And that is the real estate that is on this Blackwell Lakes Golf Estate. But you can see in the foreground, you have the hospitality part of it, which is these little eco lodges that people can come in and stay. There's a more formal building in the background there, which is a building that houses meeting and event facilities, and it's all sort of based in a natural outdoor kind of setting. We have experienced time over time again, people who come, to use the facilities here or to visit, to spend some time with us. Well, thank you, Mr. Asika, who come and spend time with us. You take a photograph of yourself there and they say, where are you in the world? So again, that again speaks to the fact that by us in Nigeria looking inwards, and developing assets and developing businesses and just developing each of the separate sectors that have local content in it. What are we doing there? We are encouraging the expenditure of Naira instead of dollars. I think that is extremely important these days for obvious and not obvious reasons. At the softer side of that, but something that underpins something that must be a movement that we must get back. We must get back on track to fostering a sense of patriotism in Nigerians, in the average Nigerian. We must believe, we must begin to re-believe, shall I say, there's a word like that. Mr. Coker, absolutely. I'm coming with an invitation to you, absolutely. And everybody, on this panel and everyone who is also participating here. We must begin to believe in our ability as Nigerians. Why? Because there's no reason why we can't do things and do things well, in simple ways and in more complex ways. We must begin to be proud of spending Naira. We must, in fact, begin to prefer to spend time, developing our local tourism spots. I'm not going to digress too much because I'm sure some of our other speakers will speak about that. We just have to believe in the expenditure of Naira versus the expenditure of dollars. We must all be tired, quite frankly, of saying, I'm going to Europe, I'm going Europe, America, they have nothing for us, I can tell you that. We haven't even explored enough of Nigeria, talk less of Africa. Africa has various, from the north of Africa down to the south of Africa. The company I work with, Mixta, we have subsidiaries in some African countries. It's so interesting when we put all ourselves, in a room, and you can see people that are as white as, I don't even know, as white as, I don't want to name a name, but Caucasian. And you can see people as dark as the Senegalese, and we're all African. So, it just has rekindled a sense of purpose, a sense of we don't need to go too far out. We have enough of what we can do. What are we doing with the resources that we have here? Shall I say the entertainment sector is, look, we don't even have to talk about that too much because they're doing what every other sector should be doing. proud, developing our own products proudly, applying them in a global kind of standard way. So I'm not, everything I'm talking about has nothing to do with compromising standards or saying, oh, we're Nigerian or African and therefore the standards. No, we can apply our talents. We can do what we do in an international, very standard kind of way. Let's not have our next 50th, 60th, 70th birthday in Mauritius or go to Trinidad and Tobago. You don't need to do that. We can do all that here. In terms of how this also sort of impacts, I'm going to, I've got a lot of talking points there, but I'm actually conscious of time. But in terms of how we have seen this impacting, even on local, having an impact in Nigeria, I've talked about during the building, patronizing local tradesmen, patronizing local businesses who are doing fantastic work, I can tell you. We've discovered people that are doing great work here in Nigeria. We also now go into, once you have your asset operational, we speak about diversity in hospitality, for instance. Hospitality is a very, shall I say, gender-friendly sector because you have a lot of women, you have a lot of youth as well, who, are people who work at all different levels. Here I am, I'm a woman, there's, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But also throughout the middle levels, the junior levels and all that, you have women participating a lot in this. You have a lot of young people, you have waiters, you have people working in the restaurant, you have people working at your front desk, and you have people working out on the, out taking care of the landscape, for instance. And, what we have also discovered is that sense of patriotism and pride in what you do, we have discovered that, people who have worked with us, who have taken part in the building and who have now, been employed as people who are part of the operators. They're so proud of what they do. You hear them say, yes, I work in Lakowe Golf. You know what I'm saying? Even in that whole locality, they're even given a certain kind of, oh, you work in Lakowe Golf. You know what I'm saying? Because every day they're toiling. They're saying that by using their talents, by being guided in the right way, they can see what they can do with their own hands. There's not much foreign, how do I call it? There's not much foreign guidance or influence in this, so, it's just a little snapshot, a little example of what can be, what should be, and I mean, as you can hear, I'm very passionate about it. I'm very proud of what, it was a bit scary to venture. The location is a little bit out of town and all that, but I think what, has been achieved there, it just shows us that we can do it. We need to also, we spoke about, let me just see a couple of my other points here. I think it was Mrs. Ngoka in the beginning said that we can't leave this, we shouldn't leave this discussion without also talking about actionable steps and perhaps requests, maybe with the Honorable Minister. Hello, Sis Lola, not so lovely to see you here this afternoon, and Mr. Coker and others. I would like to say that, developers such as ourselves, particularly those who are who have certain projects, that tick all these boxes that we've just spoken about, eco-friendly, resorts, environmental, we're respecting environmental factors, social factors, diversity factors, and all that. I would like to say that projects like projects across Nigeria, development loans at favorable rates. I think Mr. Coker had sort of mentioned, I think at some point in time when he was speaking, that this is when we know that we're really serious, when we want to support and encourage, certain initiatives here in Nigeria. So development loans at favorable rates. I think all this, each time the bank rates increase and all this and all that, we all just sigh because we say, look, we're just making a difficult job even more difficult. But we do really think that, this whole sustainability, this whole eco-friendly, this whole things around, promoting our local talents, promoting our local products. I think that, the government should recognize that, have some criteria or whatever it is. If you meet the criteria, please, we need to be able to access funds. We need to be able to access funds so that we can invest and make things here that will boost our economy, our local economy here. We want to use Naira to make Naira. We don't want to, not be able to do that. And then also, I don't know, maybe I'll just touch on a little bit of a touchy thing, power. I know that the cost of power in Nigeria now, power is becoming more and more available, which is great. But I would say that, having the actual experience of running all these hotels and hospitality kind of assets, you have to have power on 24 hours a day. You can't say, oh, we're going to switch off the power for 4 hours or whatever it is. Nobody pays to go and have an relaxation, get away from the hustle and bustle, and then you now subject them to no power and all that. So I think that's also an area that we would love if these are just practical ways that practical requests that I would love for us to just bring to the attention of those of the powers that be. When I also heard there was a rallying call of tell us about it. So I've told us all about Lakawe Lakes Golf and Country Estate. Let's patronize ourselves. Let's patronize ourselves. I mean, there's so many people doing so much good stuff in Nigeria, but sometimes I find out that, we have this kind of attitude about, oh, we have to sort of, I don't know, patronize foreign things and patronize all kinds of things, I'm looking forward to Omoyemi's session, because, I could go into even that. I would accept the workwear that I wear. I do not wear, shall we say, imported clothes or whatever it is anymore. There's just so much, beautiful, sensational, original, and so much creativity here. When you even go abroad, people stop you on the street and say, oh, I love this. It could even be a simple Ankara bag you're carrying. You'd be shocked at how many people will stop you and say, oh, I love your bag, So I just think that we just need to get back into that patronize. Let's patronize. Let's look inwards. Let's develop inwards. Let's patronize inwards. Let's apply good standards. Let's be able to get the funding so that we can do things properly here, so that we can be proud, so that we can charge people good money in Naira, of course, to patronize our local things. I'm going to stop here.
Accessible.
Sorry.
Affordable but accessible.
Affordable and accessible. I should, yeah, I think Naira is absolutely, definitely, I hope, more affordable and more accessible than dollars. So yeah, I think I'll stop here. But I can't but use this opportunity to say that I'm going to reach out to everybody and I'm going to invite you all to Lakawe Lakes Golf and Country. I would also say, again, I'm just going to be really cheeky and just be bold and say that we have an annual event there. It's usually centered around October the 1st. You can see how patriotic we are. October the 1st is the date that we have taken as our national day or something. It is a national day, right? But this, we celebrate ourselves in Lakawe every single year on October the 1st. This year is taking place between the 27th and the 29th. I am going to reach out to you, my brothers and sisters, my colleagues, my friends, my ogas, my people. And just with this view of let's patronize, let's see what, let's appreciate what we can do here. Let's encourage each other by patronizing each other. So I will stop here. I'm not sure whether I've addressed all the points I was supposed to address, but I was kind of speaking of, just speaking from the heart. Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Shade Hughes. We did feel it as well. We felt it come from your heart and it hit us in our hearts as well. Everybody's already planning a vacation. We already got a discount, so we have no reason to say no. And we're also looking forward to the fact that, during the period where we get to celebrate Nigeria and Nigerians, we also celebrate in Nigeria and also support Nigerian businesses. And the beautiful thing about supporting made in Nigeria or Nigerian products or Nigerian businesses is also that it's a ripple effect that goes around, so it's everybody gets to benefit, either directly or indirectly, but the ripple effects hits everyone. So thank you so much for that. I see that Mr. Obi Asika has his hand up. Sir, if you could say something, if it's going to be within a quick
I want to say one thing really quick, and also just to suggest to you that my sister Omoyemi has been sitting here for an hour. She hasn't spoken yet, and you need to get her on. But I would say this, just whilst you guys were talking, and yeah, I noticed that the discount was offered to Folia. So I'm happy it's now offered to all of us. but what I was going to say was that I think whilst we're done, me and Folia have agreed 2 deals that are in the chat, right? So Nigerian Culture and Tourism Fair in Abuja, Nigerian Fashion Week, Abuja. And we'll be asking Omoyemi to come and partner with us as the producer of Lagos Fashion Week. Because I think What we can do is help to enable things, but we're not the private sector. We still need the private sector to work with us to turn these things into business platforms, because at the end of the day, it's about business, right? Government is not doing business. Government can enable, provide the platform for business to thrive. And I think that's what we're interested in, how to unlock all these spaces. Because actually, for me, people like Lakaway, Lake are the people that should be going to the world travel market. Yeah, those are the destinations. Those are the things Nigeria has to push. Whether it's the Shango Festival or Shobo or Fala or Nature, those are the products. But you have to go up the level of the product to attract everybody we want to attract. That's it.
But
thanks, Irving. Yeah. Sorry,
there's
Ngozi.
also a product that can merge all of it together. There's a product that will integrate fashion, real estate, culture, and all our tourism that we have to. Because I have been to one, a package like it was so it was sold as a polo tournament. But at that polo tournament, we had all the fashion, we had fashion shows from all the fashion people in South Africa. And then we also had tours. We had local tours. And then we also had the sale of the real estate. The polo tournament was inside a new development that they were trying to sell, they were trying to market. And a lot of people bought properties, that day. So this is you can integrate everything that we are talking about here into one product.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Ms. Bolaji, I'm reading your comments here. Lakaway resorts need to collaborate with NATOP. I had a visit to the resort. Don't give discount or commissions. I took the groups back to Sheraton Ikeja. No. We have to talk.
Yes,
So,
ma. I was
reaching
trying
out
to
to
raise
Mr.
up my
Speaker.
hand.
No, it's okay. We'll
Okay.
address that. I'll get your contacts and we'll speak about that. Yes.
Okay,
all right.
fantastic.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear all this because the collaboration is going on real time and we're already seeing how, that ripple effect is already happening. So deals are being closed in the group. If you're not there, get into the chat. Let's share questions. Let's share ideas. In interim, we're going to go straight to Ms. Omoyemi Akirele as the founder and CEO of Lagos Fashion Week and the Style House Files. I've heard so much about your beautiful pieces, and it would be nice to hear how the fashion industry, how so far from your perspective, how does it contribute to tourism development? How do we intend to leverage events like this Lagos Fashion Week or Abuja Fashion Week or any of the fashion weeks, or using fashion as a tool, as what we want to promote? How can Nigeria leverage off its fashion industry to create unique tourism experiences? How do we also attract fashion enthusiasts? We've heard about different African fashion festivals. I think I know about one, which is the African Fashion and Arts Award. And, they've had 3 editions so far. They've been to other African countries. But one thing they would always tell you is Nigeria is where they start from. And because of the enthusiasm from Nigerians, people are wondering, how can we leverage, like they are planning to go to showcase mostly Nigerian to other African countries and inviting them to collaborate. But how can we also use that medium to bring people to Nigeria? How can we focus on fashion tours? What kind of marketing strategies? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, we just have little time left, but within 10 minutes, how do you see all this cultural exchange happening during the Lagos Fashion Week? Over to you.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, NESG, for having me. It's really great to be here, standing on all existing protocols. And what I particularly like about this conversation is, for once, hopefully we're not speaking in echo chambers. So there's a mix of different people, private, public sector, and stakeholders. So I'm going to start by talking about Lagos. That's where Lagos Fashion Week is hosted. And Lagos for us, represents the essence of what fashion speaks to. It's vibrant, cultural diversity, economic strength, and it stands as, the heartbeat of Nigeria's creative industries. And at this core is where Lagos Fashion Week sits. Since Lagos Fashion Week's inception in 2011, we've played a very, very pivotal role consistently in placing Nigeria on the global fashion map, not just attracting international attention, but we've contributed significantly to fostering domestic tourism. Oftentimes people wonder, what's the link between fashion and tourism? And then I say to them, if you remember the Olympics, like ceremony this year with Louis Vuitton taking taking that strategic position as one of the lead sponsors, that tells you in a heartbeat, the role that fashion plays when you talk about tourism globally. Louis Vuitton single-handedly took us on a journey, on a trip to why fashion in, why Paris, why France in general, is always going to want to retain that position as, when you think about luxury, think France. When you think about fashion, think Paris. Yes, Lagos Fashion Week, might not be one of the top 4 destinations yet, but globally, fashion weeks are definitely contributing significantly to tourism, and not just in terms of latest trends. When we think about, reports, for example, from Oxford Economics that says that the fashion industry worldwide contributes about $2.5 trillion to the global economy, it begins to give you a sense of, it's not just about people coming into Lagos or, coming into Nigeria to play. It's ultimately what can we use and how can we position fashion properly as a tool for socioeconomic development and contributing significantly to Nigeria's GDP. So as one of Africa's leading fashion events, we exemplify this phenomenon. We attract visitors, thousands of visitors from key influencers who are very important when we're thinking about messaging around domestic tourism. We think about buyers, we've definitely become a key player in boosting Nigeria's domestic tourism industry. I mean, in 2023 in London, Burberry took over, I think they must have paid about £200,000 or thereabout to TfL to brand, I think, Elizabeth Line. And, I think Bond Street was changed to Burberry Street. See, confusion. There was confusion. People are wondering, tourists, in September, thick of Fashion Week, people are confused. Which one is Burberry Street again? But it got everyone talking. And I'm saying, talking not just, in terms of internationally, but domestically, people were talking about where is Burberry Street? That is the kind of role that fashion can, play in getting everyone to take attention, because, it might have been confusing. A lot of people might have gotten off at wrong spots or, wrong turn that day, but ultimately got you, trying to understand the role that fashion can play in like significant markets like that. So I want us to, start to think about what Lagos Fashion Week represents to Lagos during fashion, and ultimately Nigeria. Surge in hotel bookings, restaurant patronage, local spending, and how, invariably a lot of these people who come to celebrate with us, who come to, showcase their work, are contributing directly and indirectly to domestic tourism and therefore the economy in general. So with Lagos Fashion Week, we've been able to contribute to redefining Nigeria's tourism. I mean, we often joke and ask people, when you think about Lagos, when you think about Nigeria, what are some of our greatest exports? Yes, we have Nollywood, we have music, we have all of that. But something we often overlook is nightlife. The nightlife in Lagos, is people fly in. When they come for Fashion Week, that's one of the things they want to experience. They're partying every single night. So as much as we've contributed significantly to positioning Lagos Fashion Week as a tool for ecotourism, right? Nightlife is also something we cannot, afford to overlook. So increasingly, since 2011, when Lagos Fashion Week launched, right? Because we consistently positioned October, end of October, either from the 23rd to 27th or 25th to 31st, we consistently positioned that season as beginning of fashion season in Nigeria. It was only natural that other event platforms came to us and said to us, would like to, host our festivals around that season. So fast forward 2016, other platforms could now, come into that season to own a portion of that, because we were able to give credibility to promoting like the creative and cultural industries in Nigeria, using fashion as a tool, a combination of fashion, music, art, under the umbrella of Lagos Fashion Week. And now October, November can aptly be described as the season for promoting culture and creative industries in Nigeria. If we look at I think there was a recent document I was reading that talked about 15, if you look at like hotels in general, around that season, we've contributed significantly to about a 15-20% increase, in terms of to hotels and hotel bookings and accommodation, Airbnb type, because a lot of people are coming to Nigeria during that season to capitalize on the buzz, to capitalize on the activities, from pop-up stores and exhibitions to after parties and networking events. the entire cityscape transforms over that period of time. You know, it offers an immersive experience that showcases Nigeria's rich cultural heritage, our creativity and hospitality. Everywhere around the world, I'm often invited to speak on all of these stages, talking about the work that we do, especially with a focus on sustainability and the circular fashion economy, which is only just, you know, something that's beginning to, that Nigeria is really beginning to hone on. And understandably so, we do know that it's our way of being. So it's not something that we felt the need to talk about. But when Lagos Fashion Week, when UNESCO last year reached out to us, and they chose Lagos Fashion Week out of all the platforms that speak to fashion on the continent, they chose that as the place to launch their first ever report on Africa fashion. It begins to tell you like the relevance that we play when it comes to not just looking at fashion as a whole, but you know how that affects the economy. Because you know, you talked, Aisha, you talked about the ripple effect of fashion. You know, it's one of those subsectors that when one person benefits, every other person within that ecosystem starts to benefit. So hotels enjoy or report significant increase in occupancy during Fashion Week. Many establishments are fully booked weeks in advance, restaurants, nightlife. You know, the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, I think, was the one, you know, who, you know, was able to give us that data. Because oftentimes one of the main problems is we don't have access to data. You know, so if you're not working, you know, directly, you know, with public sector stakeholders, some of these figures might just completely fly over your head. You just know that, you know, as a company, we're writing tons and tons of letters, inviting people who want to come. Last year, we had a group of people flying, people flying in, not just from outside Nigeria, people are flying in from outside Lagos who come into Lagos during Fashion Week to be a part of that experience. Oftentimes we don't talk about shopping tourism, you know, in Nigeria. We focus on like the big festivals, we forget about shopping. And when we talk about shopping, think about key cities like Aba, think about Lagos, think about how often people travel to some of these places just to shop, you know. So for us, we're beginning to, you know, solidify the position that, you know, the textile and apparel ecosystem play when it comes to shopping tourism across Nigeria. So not only do you provide platforms for emerging designers to showcase their talents, gain visibility, secure business deal, it also supports local artisans and craftsmen. It supports retailers who sell, you know, from your Zinkata to Alara to Temple Muse. All of these stores are buzzing with people walking in and out to shop. So the ripple effect extends to logistics, transportation, hospitality sectors, extends to nightlife. I cannot talk about the nightlife enough. You only need to go to Victoria Island and you see all the traffic. It is something
all the restaurants.
You know, you cannot overemphasize.
Restaurants as well. That's
so
true.
By generating employment and stimulating some of these economic activities, Lagos Fashion Week contributes significantly to Nigeria's GDP by emphasizing and, you know, picking up on that. You know, that point, you know, that you really need to focus on the potential of how our creative industries can be key drivers for national growth. So yeah, this also underscores the need. I mean, everyone's talked about strategic collaboration, but for us, we believe that to maximize the potential of fashion tourism, one thing that we really need to focus on is, you know, investment infrastructure. Marketing, don't worry, we've got that on lockdown. We have key influencers, you know, who contribute significantly to, you know, giving us airtime. So, and this is something we've learned to do on our own without support from the government. Because if we've been waiting for the government since Lagos Fashion Week's inception, I mean, from ideation in 2009 to first iteration in 2011, we wouldn't be here today. But we're at a critical junction now that the most important, the next level where we need to take this to be able to sort of be able to host events like Louis Vuitton, supporting Olympics, and not just supporting, sponsoring, and being able to provide that sort of relevant connection between the cultural heritage of France to such a global audience, right? It starts now. It starts with, you know, infrastructure development, starts with marketing, supportive policies, you know, producing the right enabling environment, even improving security. We lose count of how many emails we get from people saying, oh, now we're coming to Lagos, but, you know, we're getting this travel advice, you know, from this, from different countries, and bringing it home. You know, for Nigerians traveling to Lagos, they have no problems with that. They just get on, you know, they just get on with it and they come, and everyone is a part of this huge festival. And this is something that, you know, we we continually want to be able to build on. And when people are with us in Lagos, they get to experience other parts of Lagos, go outside of Lagos, go to Badagry, go to like real cultural heritage sites where some of these stories started from. I mean, recently the Lagos State the Randall Museum, J.K. Randall, or no, J. Randall Museum,
J.K. Randall,
speaks. I mean, we contributed to, some of the work that's done in there, but, thinking about the beauty and how appealing that would be once it's open officially so that people can experience the culture and be able to understand, we've talked a lot about storytelling here, but sometimes a lot of people don't even understand the origins of some of these things, the stories and where it all started from. And that's the role that we think that we can play. So I think when we talk about vision for sustainable growth, I mean, for us, we hope, to continue to always be here, to continue to grow in stature and influence. We continue to take our role as shaping Nigeria's tourism industry to ensure that, it's increasingly significant, like a lot of cultural festivals here. And, but it's important to mention that, we have to further integrate the textile and apparel ecosystem into this tourism strategy. We've done it on our own for the last 12, 13 years, but now, we need to, for us to get to where we need to go, a lot more partnerships are required. So we've talked about fashion tours, but we've not talked about, I mean, about 2-3 weeks ago, the Earthshot Prize, they were in Nigeria. Earthshot Prize gives about £1 million to some of the brightest ideas when it comes to circular economy globally, right? They came to Nigeria and one of their requests was, we need to see Nkwo is a designer based in Abuja. They came to Lagos, but it was important to see how important, it was exciting to see how important to them to travel from Lagos to Abuja and to make that a must experience visit, So when we're talking about tours, it's not just, and our cultural heritage sites are very important. But I think increasingly, we also need to understand that some of our textile and apparel leaders as well, they're key authorities that people want to visit their studios. They want to visit their designer atelier. They want to, we need to be able to promote cultural exchange programs around the textile and apparel sector that can provide year-round tourist attraction within Nigeria, where, how to, from going to, I mean, for example, like Mama Nike and her, where she does her dyeing, or going to the Kano, Kano dye pits has become one of the most visited places by textile and apparel textile and apparel key players in Nigeria today, because they want to see what it's like. And that can only happen if there's conversations around cross-cultural exchange programs within, as part of our strategy. So in an era where cultural experiences are increasingly sought after, we think that, we're certain that Lagos Fashion Week offers that unique blend of modernity, tradition, and appeals to a diverse audience. So Lagos Fashion Week is not an event. We're a movement, a creative and cultural movement. We celebrate the ingenuity and creativity of Nigerian textile and apparel designers. And as we continue to weave the threads of prosperity that we're talking about, we know that that this is really linked, that the growth of our ecosystem is really linked to being able to foster collaborations that can support domestic tourism, for more and more people to come to Lagos to shop from our designers, and not just in Lagos, visit about to produce or manufacture some of your clothes and, shopping, go to Abuja to source, or go to Kano, Puntua Cotton, source your cotton directly from there, and, engage in, go to Abeokuta, go to Ogun State, and do a bit of dyeing with the dyeing community there, so, and that's the kind of future we want to see. During COVID-19, right? When there was total lockdown, as much as, that was such a painful season, considering a lot of people who lost their lives due to the pandemic. But what was also quite inspiring was to see how everybody looked inwards. So everybody was sourcing locally. If it wasn't available within Nigeria, designers were not able to produce. And we've seen how that has created a ripple effect till date. That a lot of designers are no longer going back to some of these imported fabrics. People are relying on, some of this cotton fabrics that's sourced and, cultivated locally by farmers by farmers in northern Nigeria, looking at leather industry, everything was local. That people were dyeing locally, people were hand embellishing, embroidering. I mean, some people were not even using zips and zips and buttons, because finding the right supplier wasn't possible, and they resorted to using drawstrings and just different ways. We start to see how innovative that people can be when you have to source locally. It encourages travel. A lot of people are traveling more because they need to experience, go to visit some of these places where they can source some of the materials they use in their production. So we like to see, we choose to see, we've always seen fashion as more than fashion. Fashion is a tool for socioeconomic development, empowerment, and of course, tourism. So thank you so much for having me. I think that's my contribution.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. There were so many points. I'm really blown away by how, not only are we trying to create awareness, you've already been doing it. We've already focused a lot on domestic tourism already, trying to bring a lot of people from other parts of Nigeria to Lagos. You've also done quite a lot by also considering and tapping into the market within Nigeria. A lot of fashion designers haven't been doing that, but promoting the use of local materials is applauded. That is really fantastic. Lolongos, I don't know if you wanted to say something just now.
Yes, I wanted to say that while Bolaji was talking, I was thinking that NATOP, there's a lot for you to do here, because you can develop packages that you can share with Lagos Fashion Week, which they can offer to their clients, the people coming for the show. There are so many packages, even explain the type of things that they like to do. So you can work itineraries around those.
Yes, that's part of the collaboration we're talking about. I was, of course, amazed when she talked about nobody is talking about the shopping aspect of it, but for NATOP, it's part of the things that is on our list. When you take a tour operator, part of the when South Africa came for their roadshow here in Nigeria, that brought their group here, part of the thing we did as NATOP to take them to inside Balogun Market in Lagos for shopping. It was part of what we created, because they asked us at NATOP to create an itinerary for them. So part of that was one of the things we put there. So for this kind of thing, for fashion show like this, we can also invite people to say, why don't you come around this time? So it's part of things that, going forward, we work together and see how we can develop package for them while they have visitors coming in. Fashion is a product, and that's where we come in. It's a product we need to sell.
Awesome, thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much for the feedback. Okay, so we have the final speaker for the day. That is Mrs. Adenike Macaulay. She is the CEO of Waka Now. And, we had talked about what she was going to be, well, she's supposed to talk about collaborative models. But my question is going to be real quick. I'm sorry, I'm a bit rushing on you, Mrs. Nike. But, online travel agencies like Waka Now, they help to increase the accessibility and convenience of travelers. I think during the duration of this conversation so far, people have been talking about OTAs and their role and how they can also help improve domestic tourism. So in how you have contributed to economic growth and revenue generations, by planning destination travel and all that, encouraging longer stay, higher spending opportunities, how do we even promote less visited areas and support local economies? All those things are what we're looking at. And it would be nice to just hear your thoughts on how you think governments can leverage the strengths and reach out to OTAs, that's the online travel agencies. How can they reach out to them to effectively boost tourism numbers and enhance the overall travel experience for visitors? Like, what are the specific initiatives you can suggest, or if you're already running any, but what do you think can be implemented? We've talked about this Lagos Fashion Week, for example. How do you think this and your role as the CEO of Waka Now, how do you think that has an impact on tourism? So over to you, Mrs. Adenike Macaulay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I mean, it's been an absolute interesting conversation so far. And I'm almost happy that I'm coming last because I can speak about everything that everyone has touched up a bit on contribution from everyone. I would start by saying I think something that was mentioned by the DG of NTD, Mr. Foley Coker, and also I think Mr. Obiasika mentioned it as well, is about intentionality. Yeah, stimulation of tourism and tourism demand does not happen, by accident. It is by design. It is by intentional design. And the reason why destinations that have, significant demand from Nigeria, and I'll come to domestic tourism, the reason why those destinations, Dubai, Egypt, Morocco, now we see Doha following the World Cup. The reason why they see these numbers is because of the intentional effort, really, by I would say the coordinating body, the Tourism Board, Ministry of Tourism, to bring all the relevant stakeholders together. And when I say relevant stakeholders that address the different components of tourism, starting from the what is the product that we're selling. I think Mr. Folikoka mentioned something about when we spoke about the World Trade Market, about Nigeria, NANTA going ahead to show up in the World Trade Market and saying that, look, at the end of the day, what is the product that we are going to sell as Nigeria at the World Trade Market? First of all, we have to look inwards and sell it to ourselves. But at the end of the day, what is this product? I usually like to talk about the 3 A's. Sometimes they say the 5 A's, but the 3 major A's of tourism. And the first is usually attraction, right? Which is the why. Or the what. Why are you going there? What are you going to do? What is the product that you are selling? And oftentimes the what or the why depends on the who. It depends on who you are trying to position your destination to. We're having a conversation with, I think, the Commissioner of Arts and Culture for Edo State. And I mean, they have amazing opportunities when it comes to cultural tourism. And we had an extensive conversation around collaboration. And I think one part that I mentioned was, I mean, sometimes depending on who you were trying to target, maybe your musicians are even the attraction, major attraction, some of the major attractions that you might have. Maybe a Shadi Poppy, for instance, might be the reason why you see a lot of movement from across Nigeria into Benin. Imagine if a Shadi Poppy or a Davido or a Wizkid is having a concert in their home city. Imagine the amount of inflow that would come from within Nigeria, outside Nigeria, but within Nigeria to that home city. At the end of the day, a place to always start from is developing and defining the what. Which is the attraction. Why do you want to go there? Everyone that goes to Paris today, depending on whatever reason you are there for, if you're there for a business meeting or whatever, you want to see the Eiffel Tower. You cannot go to Paris without, seeing the Eiffel Tower because it's been positioned as part of the what, as part of the attraction of going there. One thing that needs to be done is for us to develop our what, and we have so many. The Lagos Fashion Week is one. I would tell you for a fact that anytime the Lagos Fashion Week happens, I personally see, and this is me as an independent entity, I see a spike in local travel, a big spike in local travel. And I leverage this to say, okay, now we have as a business, as a group, we have an event booking platform. We have a platform where we aggregate things to do. I leverage this to say, look, I know that you're coming to Lagos, probably for the Lagos fashion, depending on the demographic of the customer, certain ages, I know probably you're coming here for that. How do I position, for instance, a package that I have in Lakowe Golf Resort? How do I ensure that you do more beyond the Lagos Fashion Week? Nightlife, restaurants. It was interesting to hear that the NTDC has some data that has been shared with the Lagos Fashion Week as regards the economic stimulation that happens around that event. I was trying to do some research, and very easily I was able to see that the New York Fashion Week last year contributed almost $1 billion to the economy of just New York City alone. And this is really primarily the private sector, from hotels to restaurants to nightlife to even retail, shopping, supermarkets. The economic stimulation that happens is actually being monitored, is being curated. It is not by accident. And I think it was Obiasika that mentioned that what you do not monitor, you cannot improve. what you do not monitor, you cannot improve. So starting by even understanding where we're starting from, because it's not ground zero. We've discussed a lot on this call, amazing things happening at Lakowe, amazing things around the Fashion Week, amazing things that NTD are doing, the tour operators. But at the end of the day, we need a collaborative effort. I think it's clear that to an extent, when it comes to tourism, everyone is working in silos. Right? Everyone is working in silos. And what I see from the countries and the destinations that have unlocked it, that have unlocked real economic value from tourism, is that they bring all the relevant stakeholders to the table, from the attractions, which is the what, the why, to accessibilities. How do you even get the people that you want to get to your destination? How do they access it? How do you build ease into the how, in terms of even connectivity, air connectivity, rail, road? It is an intentional effort to engage all the stakeholders that play across the major components of tourism, bringing them together, down to the amenities, the hotels, down to even security, emergency services, telecommunications, down to safe drinking water, to be honest. How do you bring all the relevant stakeholders to the table to have a concerted effort and to build a product, which is product tourism Nigeria? We've heard one Lagos on the call, maybe one Abuja. I know Mr. Folikoka mentioned something that he's doing around promoting Abuja. How do we have a collaborative effort where every stakeholder, starting from this call, we have NATOP that is here. We are Wakana, we play in the travel technology space, even though we play almost across the entire spectrum from attraction when it comes to destination marketing. That is what other destinations, not even Nigeria, come, to have a conversation with us as to how do we position my country to your customers that you already have. How about doing it for our own, which is even a lot easier for us. So the first thing that can be leveraged from companies like us is our destination marketing efforts. You would see that a Dubai, or a Doha, and Egypt, or a Morocco would never come to a market without already enlisting certain DMCs. They're called DMCs, destination marketing companies, that take the products that they want to sell and go on roadshows, and they have KPIs. Of course, there's funding that often comes from the private sector. And this is where you then begin to unlock, the beauty of a public-private sector partnership. I think Brand USA is an example of that. Brand USA was a public-private partnership that was set up in, I think, 2010 by the US Congress, strictly to bring in, of course, to promote the USA as a destination internally, but also domestically. Half of the funding of Brand USA, and you'll be, I'm sure a lot of people are probably surprised that USA actually even has to do any work in terms of promoting their destinations. But at the end of the day, as I said, everything you see is by design. The funding for Brand USA, 50% of it comes from the private sector, right? And another 50% comes from, I think, a portion of the visa fees that they collect across board. I was recently trying to see the success of the Brand USA, and for every $10 that is invested in the promotion of USA as a destination, as a brand, of course, different cities, $27 is returned as value back from every investment that is made. One thing how I want to bring all of this together when I say engaging relevant stakeholders, a lot of the value that the government needs to unlock the contribution of tourism to the economy of Nigeria lies in the private sector. I'm happy that now we have a Ministry of Tourism that hopefully is empowered to an extent. But I mean, we're just at the beginning of this marathon. It's never a sprint. A lot of the countries that we are trying to benchmark, they started this journey 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, and it took intentional effort. We're probably at the starting point, but the beauty is that there's a lot of great private sector initiatives that already do exist. And I think we've seen that demonstrated on this call alone, bringing everyone together, having one body. And I'm happy that the Ministry of Tourism is taking that on to, start with these conversations that are happening, bringing in the private sector, the public sector to spark conversations. But at the end of the day, understanding the motivation of each stakeholder, particularly the private sector, because at the end of the day, they're going concerns, right? They are going concerns. Obviously, I see you, happy to collaborate. We are going concerns. And at the end of the day, we are in the business of making money. But understanding the motivation of each private sector stakeholder and bringing that to the table and ensuring that at the end of the day, and sometimes it's not about money. I think it was the president of NATOP, Ms. Bolaji, that mentioned that we don't necessarily need the ministry to give us money. You know, there's so many ways to skin the cat when it comes to extracting value out of a public-private partnership. Tax breaks is one. Mr. Falikoka mentioned that I'm investing my money or even borrowed funds to invest in tourism. Don't tax me, right? Don't tax me, because at the end of the day, there is value in the government for it in terms of stimulating tourism, bringing in more inbound tourists, whatever KPIs that, you know, that success is going to be measured by. Tax breaks, concessions, there's so many examples of successful concessions across the world. Even in Nigeria here, MM2 is one concession in the travel space that works. The Gautrain project in South Africa is one that works. So there are so many ways without, I would say, the government, because again, the conversation is always around, you know, funding and the prioritization of the tourism sector when it comes to budget allocation. But this is where unlocking, I would say, the capacity of the private sector comes in. Speaking about, I know you mentioned something about the Lagos Fashion Week and, you know, how specific initiatives that we can implement to ensure that it contributes towards tourism. Like I mentioned, we're not starting from a ground zero. The Lagos Fashion Week already presents an attraction. It's already a why. I already, as a business, see growth anytime the Lagos Fashion Week is happening and similar events. Now, how does, you know, the Ministry of Tourism or the regulatory body or whoever is going to take, you know, the lead in bringing all stakeholders to the table? How do we ensure that, you know, the business decisions that have to be made by the private sector in order to stimulate this tourism demand that we want to see? How do we ensure that the motivation for each private sector entity is understood, and then the facilitation of these discussions happen so everybody makes the individual business decisions that actually profits their own business? Because again, at the end of the day, private sector, they're going concerns, you're in it to make profit. Every investment has to return a value. But at the end of the day, collaboration, rather than competition, and also measuring what we already do, would actually point you towards the opportunity that do exist and the low-hanging fruits that you can easily leverage to stimulate more contribution from tourism. We as Wakana today, we have a lot of rich data that as a business we use in nudging our customers here and there, and in generating and extracting more value from them. I know you're coming to Lagos. I know last year you went to Dubai or Doha or a certain destination. How do I position something local to you that will cost you a tenth of what you're going to spend in London or in the US or going to the New York Fashion Week? How do I position whatever is happening in Nigeria to you, leveraging the data that we have? How actually does the government leverage the data that the likes of us have? What is the incentive for private sector practitioners to actually bring the capacity, the data, the competencies that they have to the table to ensure that at the end of the day, the objective of everyone, public sector being increase in tourism activities and contribution towards the economy, private sector exchange of value is what needs to happen, breaking the silos. I'm happy to collaborate with everyone on this call, but it has to come from an understanding of the motivation for the decision for every practitioner, particularly in the private sector.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mrs. Macaulay. You're so right. You know,
happy to meet students. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments.
Thank you. Thank you. So, you know, just like you said, moving from competition to collaboration. So my friend would say, well, competition is, yes, competition is collaboration now. So nobody's competing because we're all working together to make it a success. So collaboration is key. And you did reiterate points from the previous speakers, which focused on policies, marketing and investments. And Mrs. Ngozi Ngoka actually said that earlier. She also talked about, you know, the other recommendations. I think you were attributing it to Mr. Coker. So she had actually talked about the tax break and things like that. So everything comes together to ensuring that we're all on the same page. And if there's anything I've heard back to back here is, how can we collaborate? How can we leverage? How can we come together? How can government help? How can they meet us halfway? So everybody on the table wants the same thing. So the good thing is we're all on the same journey. We're all going towards the same direction. And we're here to ensure that while everybody has a role to play in promoting domestic tourism, we also take responsibility. It starts with us as individuals to start by traveling with our families, just like Mrs. Bolaji said earlier. You know, having experienced Ekiti State, she decided, I want to try this with my family. And I'm hoping that that is something that all Nigerians start to see value in. If we understand what it is that we stand to gain, we will appreciate it, we will embrace it. At this point, I would like to thank every one of the panelists for their time, their dedication, the amazing conversation, the beautiful points that we have out. You know, there's so much when we all meet. And I've seen some comments, some people saying, oh no, please, can we do this again? We need more of this. It's not enough. Can we ask questions? You know, the truth is these conversations, maybe it goes on. So it drags on for a bit longer than usual or necessary or planned, mostly because maybe we don't have them enough. So the little time we have, we want to say all the things that we've been working on, we've been planning. It's been 12 years, 10 years. It's been a decade of investments. Beautiful. We're happy to hear these results, but we need to have these conversations a bit more regularly so that people get to understand. I think the gap in between, a lot of messages may be lost in between, the gaps between the conversations, people, maybe the enthusiasm would have died down, because I'm sure after this trip, people on the call are already thinking, where am I going next? Now I might have to do, you know, my holiday trip here this time. The next 70 years, I'm feeling guilty because I also thought of doing.
Okay. Oh, Aisha has been cut off. Thank you
for my mom.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Aisha. That was a very brilliant session. I'm very mindful of the fact that our director is here. He has never spent this length of time with with any event that we've had. So I don't want to push our luck.
Outside Nigeria. So I have to.
The time has really been, so we spent too much time already. And
rejogging my thoughts. And
so we've been advised to skip the question and answers. If you can all send in your questions, we'll try and answer them later, you know, after this event. But we really must move on to the next session. And I want to invite Zeno back to take the rest of the program.
Okay, so good evening here in Nigeria, and good day everyone. It has truly been a wonderful time, and we want to genuinely appreciate our co-moderators, Mrs. Ngozi Ngoka and Dr. Aisha Yusuf, for handling such a wonderful panel session. And I also want to give kudos to our wonderful panelists. It's been a wonderful right from Mr. Folorin Shaw, Mr. Obi, Mr. Denike, Mrs. Shadi, Mrs. Bolaji, and Mrs. Moyami. Thank you very much for such a wonderful session. So apologies for not taking the Q&A. We've noted down the questions and it would all be sent in. This also session will be on our YouTube page shortly after most likely next week. So you can also, if you want to rewatch the session, you can do that. So at this point, I would like to welcome our facilitator, Dr. Ikena Nwosu, who is the facilitator of the Tourism and Hospitality, of the THECCSPC Policy Commission, which oversees the tourism and hospitality industry's thematic group. Dr. Ikena Nwosu to give the closing remarks. Dr. Ikena, sir, good afternoon. Your mic is muted, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody here for the opportunity today. I am particularly delighted the resource persons and at the quality of the topic. When Ngozi first dropped that topic with me, I was actually thrown aback because I think sufficient attention had not been paid to the domestic aspect of tourism, including reverse tourism by Nigerians who are in the diaspora, because they are coming back to look at what is in their country. And then when I saw the rider to the title, a powerful tool for rural revitalization, as a powerful adjective, and economic growth. I said, I'm so delighted that you are thinking about this now. The role of domestic tourism in these two regards, economic growth, rural revitalization. Because our country was classed, not was, in fact, is classed as the poverty capital of the world. Highest out-of-school children, highest number of internally displaced persons, highest number of internally displaced camps, now with over 40% inflation. How can we help to get the rural areas to be areas where the indigents, those who live there, could be empowered? I'm very, very delighted that this has happened, this event. I can see the marriage of culture, tourism, fashion, travel agency across the ecosystem. This is so beautiful to behold. Already, a lot of you who among the panelists are thinking seriously about alliances and how you could all play in this large space. Again, this topic is coming up at the time that the governance framework for both the tourism sector and the art, culture, and creative sector are being optimized. The draft national tourism policy is ready. It will be going to stakeholder validation. The cultural policy is also in process. That for creative is also in process. So at the end of the day, the output from these conversations today, which are cross-cutting, will be very useful to the policy development processes. So I want to thank all of you for taking your time out. And thank Ngozi for the concept of this idea. I want to thank the Honorable Minister. She took her time out to give a very powerful speech underscoring the importance that the ministry gives to domestic tourism. Our very, very able moderator, nobody could have done it better. I want to thank you. The output from all the panelists, I'm looking forward to read the report, but I have listened through. I also want to thank our private sector co-chair of the THECCSPC Commission, Mr. Udeme Ufot. He's in the advertising space and PR space. And I know that this is an area that interests him. He has sat through after the welcome remarks and listened to every single one of you. I know he will report back to the board of the NESG, because market, whenever we have such events, the feedback goes back to the board of directors. And this is a pre-summit event. It's not just another panel session or discussion. It is leading to the economic summit that we'll have once a year. So for you to know the priority to put the NESG places when it comes to this title, domestic tourism. So let me stop there. Thank you, and thank you again. So Zeno, back to you to bring the event to a close. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ekena, for closing this wonderful event. I would like to once again appreciate both our resource persons, the Honorable Minister, Mr. Udeme, our board member, and other panelists, and generally our participants for taking our time to join us in this wonderful event. This is just to also not just to register for the upcoming Nigerian Economic Summit, which is scheduled to hold October 14th to 16th. So the conversation does not end here, it still continues, and the link has been dropped in the chat box, so you can please take advantage of it, and please do register. Thank you once again for joining, and to also join us in the tourism space. The link has also been dropped in the chat box to join the tourism thematic group, and we'll continue the conversation from there. Thank you once again, and please do have a lovely day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you so much for staying till the end.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Am I allowed to call you
thank
sis?
everybody. I wanted to thank everybody for their contributions. I found it very exciting. I have a lot of notes, a lot of things that have been said I agree with and were in my plan. And even though I didn't talk about it, but I do agree with a lot of the comments. I want to thank you all so much. And we'll meet again when we have the stakeholders meeting, especially to finalize the tourism policy review. And also we are going to ensure that the president will initiate or will resuscitate the Presidential Tourism Council. I've already discussed it with him. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, NESG.
Honorable Minister, because a lot of the things that were being discussed today are already in the policy, which you started. You've done a really fantastic job for the industry, and I'm sure by the time the policy takes into, by the time we start using the policy by October, I'm sure that a lot of things will happen in the industry. You've already started the process, and we're very, very happy about that. Thank you all for joining. Obi, you wanted to say something?
So I was just saying thank you to everybody, and I'm looking for collaborations. I'm looking for developers. Sade is here.
Yes.
I'll be calling you.
Shade, we have to talk. I have a lot of ideas.
We are looking for funding. We're looking for funding at reasonable interest rates.
We can take it to the bank.
What can I say?